It wasn't. It's not a safe link.
Ready for that.
Thank you.
I know.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the November 21st, 2022 City Council study session. We will begin with our Arts Master Plan.
Okay.
Great.
Hi, Tiva again from Group Creative Services was here a bit ago to kind of check in on the midway point on the Arts and Culture Plan, where we had started to kind of do a lot of input, gather information, started to figure out some themes around where the strategies would be developed. So I'm back to say that the plan is done or nearly done. We're kind of doing a final round of presentations to all the different city councils. We're here tonight. Next week is Carlisle, and then following that will be Norwalk. So again, are you switching the? Remember, each community contributed through Mark True, who's here.
I didn't know you wanted to present this. And you're still presenting your other.
Each community contributed to the Arts and Culture Plan. Arts and Culture Plans for us are 3 to 5 year roadmaps for how to continue to make our community brighter, welcoming, and thriving, both in terms of community as well as economically. If you remember, we did a lot of input. So we did focus groups. Jackie's been great at helping connect us with the community, both to make sure the survey got out there, that we did some focus groups. We did one-on-one interviews with folks like your chamber director and staff. Thank you. There we go. So just that role, again, it's just a short-term roadmap. This is not a 20-year vision. This is just what can happen strategically in the next few years to kind of advance other civic goals through arts and culture. This is about kind of a shared regional plan as well. So again, defining arts and culture, a lot of people, when they think arts, sometimes they get sort of very focused and they think murals and sculptures. And we really try and make sure people are thinking much more broadly. And hopefully you'll see in our recommendations that we think broadly about it. And we also include culture. Those things really are hand in hand. What is it that's so unique about this community that makes it something that you don't find somewhere else? And how do we amplify that through the use of the arts? So again, these are things about collaborative community building. It makes places authentic and attractive. So again, we were tasked originally with a regional plan. So you'll see we've got recommendations for the region as a whole. These recommendations are either what each community could do. So they were the same kind of recommendations that work no matter which community, or as kind of the Northern Warren County moves forward together, here are ways that there's a connectedness across all 3 of them. And then we have strategies for each community. I'm only sharing ones for Indianola tonight, but just know that in the plan, it has recommendations there for Carlisle and Norwalk as well. So the first thing we do, which we talked about last time, was assess assets. What's unique, again, to the region that you won't find anywhere else. And for me, I love your rolling hills. Like you guys have the Grant Woods rolling hills, and you have amazing parks. We can't find this in other areas in the adjacent communities. So great natural resources, diverse agriculture. Beyond corn, soybeans, you've got wineries and berry patches and lots of horse stables. They're just an interesting mix of diverse agricultural options. A lot of folks love that you're edge of metro, but you're still a small town. So how do we capitalize on that? And a lot of folks may hear it all the time, but hot air balloons is your unique asset, not just Indianola, but really as a region. Your pilots live all across the Northern Warren County area. You can't find that. You go to Northern Iowa. Like when you think about the Midwest, it is a really unique niche. We think it could stretch beyond a one time a year festival. So we heard a lot from every community of just the importance of small businesses and making sure that there's continued support for those local businesses. So we're here to sort of say, how can the arts help engage and support the small businesses? And one of them is just looking for an annual stipend to support temporary activations in on the main streets, we're calling them, no matter which the town is. This could be artists that do interesting window storefront displays, right? It could be something that's just unique to see. Could be supporting artists to come in and do demonstration. So come pop into the store today. We have this artist doing this thing, right? So it's something that might be unique, especially in some of the off seasons. So again, what can the arts do to, and just maybe some interesting pop-ups that would happen just along your square. That would be something new to bring people down. We had a lot about wanting to create a regional identity. People love it that when you say Madison County, everyone thinks bridges, but really longed for something similar for Warren County. And we really feel like through those assets that we talked about earlier, to start to amplify those assets and have artists do that. You don't need to hire folks to do branding. You just start having artists that start to do some activations around those themes, and that will start to gain some momentum. We think there's a lot of opportunity to celebrate ballooning year round. Actually pulled some of your hotter balloonists in for a downtown activation in downtown Des Moines a couple of winters ago. We were hired by the partnership to try and look at how to bring people downtown Des Moines in January in the middle of what was still the pandemic. And we had a hotter balloon hunt. So that was an interesting way in an off season. And people, when they come down to hunt for the balloons, they also went out for pizza, right? Like we saw an uptick in other kinds of activity while people were downtown there. Just so you know that I didn't mention, the plan is thick. Hopefully, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, there's a lot there. There are a lot of hyperlinks. We put hyperlinks all over the place. The idea that there's lots of examples of everything I'm talking about, and it's a fun rabbit hole to go down to kind of see all the things. So I'm doing a pretty high level overview. There's a lot more articulated in the plan. Small steps towards authentic infrastructure. Anytime any of you as a community, as a region are investing in things, whether those are roadways, playgrounds, just all the capital investments you see, could be private or public. What are the ways in which you can think about those things being distinct? Even a stairway can be a distinct, something that's interesting to go look at. And then we mentioned before, you have really amazing parks and green spaces, not only your individual parks, your state parks, and then your county has done a remarkable job in terms of looking at greenways. And what are the ways to start to capitalize on that? Lots of folks interested in outdoor recreation, just give them a reason to come down and explore a new space. Here, Pickard Park, there's not only is disc golf a national tournament that's here, but we heard from a lot of your merchants that there's a lot of foot traffic that comes in from all the tournaments. What are the ways in which you can get a little Instagram moment where folks just want to get their picture taken next to the thing at the park, and all of a sudden your park is all over being spread of like this unique thing that you can find there. We think that there's a reason to kind of focus there. Then also temporary art activations. I don't know if you heard about the glass egg hunt that happened at Waterworks Park a few years ago. Simple activation. We paid Waterworks Park's huge, right? It's a massive park in Des Moines. A lot of people only ever see it by trail, leaf trail, yet there are thousands of acres to explore. The foundation there was interested in getting people off and exploring new areas. We hired a glass artist. They made 500 glass eggs. Volunteers hid them, and thousands of people came out to try and find an egg that they knew was unique and was unlike any other. There was media coverage about this in Davenport. So there can be some pretty simple things you could do to bring people to new spaces. And how your parks look can also have points of distinction as well in some simple and not simple ways as well. So that's another opportunity, is how to develop those parks in unique ways. This is another one. This is a simple bridge, not a large pedestrian bridge. I can't remember the name of it, but it's supposed to be like a salmon bone there, and it's in the Northwest. So it's playing off of something again culturally unique to them. Really think that trails are more than a destination. They should also be the experience along the way. We did a arts and culture plan for City of Ankeny, specifically along their trail. They know it's not enough to build the trails. You need to find ways of having experiences for people along the trail. to get them there, to find the thing for the photo or to find the little coffee shop in most breweries or whatever the thing is, a destination, especially for families, might need a little bit more along the way to get them there. The greenways, again, are beautiful river systems that you have. One of the things we talked about is really hosting a land art festival. For those in the art community, this is a unique niche within the arts. It does not exist in central Iowa. And because of your natural resources, it could be a unique niche. That picture was a light show. It's in the very well-known park in Arkansas. Also, just bringing the river to town, you have two beautiful rivers. To the extent that that aesthetic continues to weave into your communities as well, is another opportunity for just embracing your natural resources. End-to-end walking, again, this is capitalizing on your unique cultural assets. It's popular in Europe. People do day-long walks. They're not necessarily even hikes. They do 8 to 15 miles in the day. Someone just takes their luggage from one place to the next, and they just take their lunch with them on their back, and they just walk. With your rolling hills, your unique agricultural asset, I think it'd be a really unique opportunity. We do a lot for bikers. We're starting to do more for people who want to paddle on the rivers. We don't do a lot for walkers, and that those long day distant walks feel like kind of out of the box for Midwesterners. But I do think you have a lot of infrastructure, especially along the B roads within counties, kind of like the pretty quiet roads there. So part of it, the recommendation here is just to start to plot what that might look like. And then also create more local opportunities for local artists. Everyone wants to have that vibrancy, knowing that artists here can thrive as well. The recommendation here is to kind of look for non-traditional gallery spaces. You have a veterinarian lobby. You already have a coffee shop that has local art that rotates on a regular basis. What are the other places that would love to have local art showcased? And maybe it just rotates January, February, March on a quieter months for some of those businesses. The North River Arts Council is here to help start to find those artists and pair those artists up with the businesses that are interested in hosting them. And then formalize the role for the North River Arts Council. Mark True is here with the North River Arts Council. It's really seen as something that can help across the region, this northern Warren County region, both again to pull artists together, but also to support best practices. Hey, we learned when we did, murals with this tile thing that this was the way to do it, right? Like there's a lot of best practices that could be shared. You guys successfully had a great art fair. I know the other communities are interested in doing more of that. How can you share your knowledge across the region as well? So we articulate some specific things there that it can do to support your work here, in addition to your own commission. Any questions about the regional strategies before I move into the specific ones for Indianola?
So do you create the regional identity, or do you just make suggestions and then like the Arts Commission will come in and work on it then?
We offer some suggestions. What we're saying is we heard a lot that there's a need for regional identity. We think we started to articulate the assets that we think you could lift up. And then it's just starting to set some artists loose on on their own imagination for how to move some of that forward. We would be happy to help with the implementation side of that one too, of what that could look like. But these so far just kind of, in the world of all the possibilities, what are the areas in which we think you could focus on? And here are the areas that we heard could use some focus. There was just a general collective sense of wanting to have a sense of identity. Our firm is now also on the team for the Warren County Comprehensive Plan. I imagine the same thing will come up for that, and we'll be also seeking opportunities for integration there as well. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
All right, again, specific to you all, for each community, we really looked for 2 to 4, really depended on the community of the world of possibilities. There could be a million things every community could do. What did we hear are important civic issues for this community, and how can we make sure that the arts are aligning with those civic issues? We know that there's existing interest in connecting Simpson to your square. There's been a lot of discussion about that. Your Hometown Pride's been working hard on that. They've started to move forward on this Wonder on Buxton. So hopefully this is not new to you. We are echoing this work is already moving forward, and just align with that work as well. And that goal again of making that pedestrian connection an interesting experience for folks who are walking along it. Reboot the town square. We certainly heard a lot about the courthouse, the construction timeline, the road changes, right? There's just been a lot. So there's just this interest in now how do we start to gather our energy again and move forward? There's a lot of ideas in there in terms of your town square. It's just beloved, and you all know this. And this is just the place that your community comes together. And what are the ways in which arts can continue to be part of that effort to highlight the local businesses and be part of this vital space. This is a kooky title, but essentially House in the Town Square just means you have a lot of events, particularly in the summer, from the Hot Air Balloon Festival to the Warren County Fair. You have a quilter tour. I can't remember the name of it now, but you're on this sort of like circuit for quilters that make their way through. And then the opera are bringing a lot of folks down. And I've actually come for 3 of the 4 of those. I'm not a quilter. And it is frequent that I've come and never gone to your town square. Sometimes I'll grab some pizza. And so what I was curious about was how can we pull the folks like me or coming in and visiting your community into the town square? And part of it then is seeing, can the town square be echoing some of the things that are happening? Are there ways in which something that's part of the county fair can only happen at the town square? Someone mentioned like cow pie bingo. I mean, just it could be anything. What we're encouraging is engage the culture of those events to bring people in for that. And maybe marketing gets crossed, right? So maybe the county fair is now saying these things are only happening in the town square. What are the ways in which that can happen against each other? One of the examples is back to this one. Again, this may seem pretty far out, but when you look at this artist, there's a link in the plan to her work. She has like shrouded buildings of massive proportions with these big quilts. What I also know from the balloonists that they go through their hot air balloon pretty quickly. That fabric ages. And so you've got a lot of their balloon material that's up for grabs, and you have a lot of quilters. And so we just thought it could be a great combination is to take some of that fabric, have a quilt off, and look at the part of the courthouse that gets covered in this massive quilt made out of the balloons. Who wouldn't want to come and scope out that in your downtown square? And again, just remember, these are ideas as jumping off points. These are not prescriptive. These are just saying like, here's where we think you could start to head. Same thing with the opera. Are there ways in which local kids could write lyrics to an opera and then gets performed by the professionals in the square? So we try and offer lots of examples like that in that one. Someone who may know more about esports can talk more thoroughly about esports, but you have Simpson students that are on scholarship for esports there, and there are some events sometimes to be able to watch that happen. Even though it's online, you can still gather people to watch them compete in real time. And we think it wouldn't be a hard lift to do that in the town square as a live event. And I think it would just bring, again, a whole different kind of category of citizens down to see that. This isn't in your purview, but certainly a recommendation we had. We heard a lot about the courthouse. And I think just the idea that the conversation's not done, that there could be ongoing conversations there where facades, if you look at parking lot facades, there's amazing examples of really dynamic, beautiful facades that can happen on buildings. We think there's ability to continue to do that. The mosaic on the right is actually in the World Food Prize. It's a new mosaic. So it looks old. So really what we were looking for is have a look at blending the historic architecture of your downtown with the courthouse. What would be some materials that could easily be added and phased over time that could add some beauty and again, speak to the cultural uniqueness of your community here. Arts for everyone. We heard from former residents actually who are currently artists that said arts is what was their salvation in the community, and they really hope that continues for youth that are here. And so one thing is just continuing arts programming. There is a model in Des Moines, the after school arts program is called ASAP. Actually was started from a church program to make sure that kids of all means had access to the arts. You have a plethora, really every community was so fun to get to know what their uniqueness was. Like Carlisle could just tell lots of stories of lore. They just had lots of really cute little stories to tell about, buried cement trucks. You guys have a remarkable number of Rotary groups and that sort of like civic layer that it just has a different vibrancy to it here. And so what are the ways in which some of those organizations can continue to support the arts and connect people to the arts? And one of it is just funding more arts programming, but also cross-generational fiber arts. Again, you've got quilters. You probably have lots of quilters within churches that are very active, but aging as well. And so there's a lot of examples of young people taking up quilting, but making it their own and having their own form of expression. So I think, again, connecting people of different generations. Then also just opportunities for the youth to lead. Again, if the opera's in town, can the youth here be docents for that? What are the ways in which youth become leaders, feeling very vital aspects, part of the community? Capitalizing upcoming investments. So this one is a recommendation for every community. When there's again, examples here, potential ordinances. Some communities have different thresholds. It might say, hey, for each year, we're going to set aside funding for just some concept development. Concept development means, hey, like right now, Bondurant's looking into doing this. They're going to build a new water tower. What are the ways that water tower could be something special? We can help. You can have artists come in, develop ideas around that piece of infrastructure. Again, whether it's a new parking lot, it's a roadway, it's your monuments are going to be in the downtown area. And how can we see how that could be unique, site specific, community specific within the budget we can afford, but you're always investing in a little bit of that distinction for your capital projects. And maybe it's not every single one of them. Maybe there's some that are in the corner of town that no one's going to see and it doesn't matter, but some of them that might be more, forward to the community. So really trying to set aside both budget as well as some policy that says when we have a project that's a certain size, it might trigger collaboration with the art committee, for instance, to look at that. So that's kind of small steps towards this authentic infrastructure projects. And then I'm just here to say we're here for every community to look at potential adoption. You guys are first, Carlisle next, and then Norwalk. And I'm happy to take any questions. It was a lot.
It is a lot.
What are you thinking in funding? When you talk about funding, what are you?
Concept development, yeah. There's probably a couple of recommendations where there's funding, and it can, we're speaking to you. You all are the ones that hired us, so that's why we're back here for approval. But you could see some of those recommendations are clearly not about you. It could be a church that takes on after-school arts programming. So this, we really didn't think, what only can the city do? It's really what does the community need? Specific to city government, what could the city government do? One of them could just be supporting some of the art activations on Main Street, that annual stipend that says, what can we do to help increase vibrancy, to work with that Downtown Merchants organization now, I don't remember the exact name of it. It could be a way of, again, supporting their efforts. And then the other one for concept development around infrastructure projects, that has either both, so it's policy recommendations in general, depending on the size of the project, you're looking at $6,000 to $9,000 just to get concepts in hand that are usually from 3 artists. We always think it's best to have options. Every artist approaches it differently. And the range really depends on the scale of the project. A $50,000 project is a different thing than $250,000 project, right? So knowing the scale really then affects the budget for how much we would pay the artist a stipend to do that. We always believe in paying the artist. It's the creative juice is really what is they're there to offer. So that's the biggest thing, is to get their ideas. And implementation can happen different ways, like the water tower for Bondurant. That'll be implemented by the construction crew that's installing it, right? Sometimes the artists can install it themselves as well. If you're looking at a mural, that's usually probably a lower end of that as well.
I can speak for the city if you're curious about funding, because that's would be part of it. We'll be presenting to the Andy here shortly Quest. Back in '86, when I first came to Indianola, it was part of the Indianola Fine Arts Commission, which is what this committee, the Indianola Public Arts Commission, is now. I'm vice president of the North River Arts Council and president of the Indianola Public Arts Commission. But back in the '80s, the Indiana Fine Arts Commission regularly received $5,000 each year. And that was used as start money for that commission to figure out what they were going to do and and use that to raise money. Currently, Norwalk receives $12,000 a year. It was Norwalk, I double checked. So we're working on what we're gonna ask, at least for the city for us to continue. We started the Indiana Summer Arts Festival with no money, very successful. We've just put it back online. We started in March because it was kind of late, and now we're ready to proceed already, and it's already online already with the festival.net website. And we're going to have a 2-day event, and we really expect for this thing to grow. But we don't have any money. We really don't. The fees that you pay to enter a festival like that don't pay for everything. So it's the cities that help put that money forward. One thing to keep in mind, one of the best programs I've ever seen for public money going to the arts was back when Robert Ray put into effect the 0.5% for art for public buildings. And it was a great program. And it just in the last few years was discontinued. But the important thing to understand is that the money spent towards the arts has become one of the biggest economic drivers for a community. The economic impact has been phenomenal. I think there's a study, I don't know whether I sent it to you, yeah.
I don't think you sent it to us, but you reported on that last year. And
Yeah,
it was-
yeah.
It was an interesting amount.
And it is unbelievable the amount that generates. Des Moines Metro is a model for cities all over the United States through Bravo. It is a model because what they have done with all the music venues and the murals and everything else they've done, it has really, really driven the tourism. And I will send it to everybody, the latest stuff on how much the money towards public art regenerates over and over again for a community. So anyway, that's
Bob, what's the date on that? Have you got the date set up? Obviously, you probably do on that Arts Festival. And this is next summer.
it'll be July 29th and 30th. Both days it'll be 10 to 4. And we just finished putting it on the big website at festival.net, advertised all sorts of the different websites and called artists, and ours we just put up today. We just got the final details worked out. And we're pretty excited. We think we had so many rave reviews because it was a great event. It was not only in the most beautiful place you could have it in Buxton Park, which really people loved it and the artists loved it, and along with the shade. So, and we were able, yes, and we're able this year to get a lot of great photographs that really show off it.
He also cited the 1% for arts in terms of budget. That's one of the policies could be considered. We offer links to other smaller communities like yours that have done that. That just says when we build something, again, it could be a new fire station, any capital project of a certain size, whatever, you get to define this, would trigger setting aside 1% for arts. Some communities would choose to spend it within that capital investment. Some would say we're going to put it in a pool of funding and then decide where we want to invest it. They also do that for private development. Some communities do that as well. Similar, I don't know if you guys have this, I know Norwalk does that whenever a development comes in, they require a set aside for parkland. Similar kind of policy there that would look for private development. Sometimes it's commercial, not residential, but looking at some investment in the arts as well.
I thought there was a lot of good things in this presentation. There was a couple things that concerned me as well. One of them was removed, which was the school mascot. But also on page 4, it talks about, these communities lack cultural and racial diversity. I think there's some things in here that get beyond the scope of just murals on buildings, sculptures and parks.
Mhm.
I just wanted to voice my concern over some of those.
Okay. Yeah, mostly for each community, we do our best to try and describe the communities and as a here's what we learned and here's what we know about these communities as a point to kind of get to other places. And that's where we're just, for all of them, we speak to their demographics. Thank you.
Right. There's no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
very
Thank you.
Bob, so now will the Fine Arts Commission be working through this for kind of some plans?
Yes.
I know that a lot of it comes with start with funding and.
Right, right. And most of the stuff will come, well, not everything, most of the stuff from public will come through us, so. And we're working on plans trying to get this, figure out exactly what we're able to do. The art festival. I came to the group and I said, we need a big project, and it just happened to be that meeting, Amy Duncan came forward and said, we have the big project for you, which was the art festival, and it's been great, so.
So now, and I'm sorry to put onto this, but so now the Wonder on Buxton is, that's directed through, through, Hometown Pride.
Hometown Pride.
Or have they reached out to you guys?
Yes, they will come through us. They asked me at one point to write the RFP, but they're changing and trying to figure out exactly what they're going to do.
Okay, because I do think there's some things that you guys have some expertise too that I think would work well.
Yes,
there
yeah,
to be able to kind of help drive some of that, because I like a lot of their concepts. There's some things I think that needed a little bit, so.
part of the thing is when they started and we actually began again, because, they were absent, we were unaware of each other, what was going on at the time. And now we've, started to work together and understand.
So I was hoping there was some.
Yeah,
coordination,
yeah,
collaboration there, so, okay.
I think, speaking on behalf of the North River Arts Council, we kind of have a regional role trying to connect the dots here. That's why we came to you originally and asked for the funding for this. We want to see this plan out in all the different communities. We've already had connections with both the commission here in Indianola, the Norwalk Group, the Carousel Theater in Indianola, the Wayne Metro Opera, Simpson College, the Carlisle Historical Society, the schools in Norwalk and Indianola, the Carlisle Chamber of Commerce, the Warren County Economic Development, City of Carlisle, in the last 6 months because of this conversation. The idea is to get these ideas out there so that when somebody says, hey, I think about this, they can contact us or they know another group and we connect them. Where are the resources? Hometown Pride is one that we've had some communication with. We've done 2 mural projects in Carlisle in the last 6 months. So the idea is to get these ideas out there so that everyone from city council to a nonprofit to the schools would understand what we're trying to do here. That's a good idea. We're doing that. We like that idea.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, we'll move on. Discussion and direction regarding the Sustainability Committee. Anita?
Good evening. I'm Anita Christensen. I'm the chair of the Indianola Sustainability Committee. I am joined by Al Ferris and Bill Howard. A couple quick things. We're here to talk about an ordinance to approve our committee as an official city committee. This has been, I guess you would call it a mayor's committee since about 2002, somewhere early 2000s. A group of citizens asked Jerry Kelly, who was the mayor at the time, convene this type of committee. Originally, I am the oldest person, not oldest, but longest person on the committee. Longest person on the committee. And when I started, different members of different city departments would attend the meetings as well. Our basic goal, we know that there are many things that our community can do to be sustainable that also benefit our citizens and our community as a whole. And we have people like Al and Bill who are really knowledgeable and can be good resources. If you hear about another community that does something, ask us questions. We're willing to be resources, to do research, and to bring possible ideas in front of you. So I don't know how the ordinance and bylaws work. They already have them, so.
Yep, this is a formal creation of the board by ordinance so that they are following the same policies and procedures that the rest of the boards that we have created follow and fall into that same scheme as far as how members are appointed and how they're by council, how often they're meeting, all that type of thing. And the bylaws help them to establish that as well. There are questions that council has and the things that they're working.
I got a question. We don't have anything in here about being a resident of the community.
And this particular board, we don't. And in some boards, we don't. For example, like the Downtown Square Commission, that one, you don't necessarily have to be a member of the community, but you do have to have a business on Square. So we have different rules and different committees. This was really before you for your consideration. So the type of things that you would want to.
I guess I would like to see that. I think if this is a committee that is for the benefit of our community, I guess I just assume it'd be people in our community as part of it. Especially if they're gonna be making recommendations to the council, I guess I just soon have it be like people.
And I think generally speaking, the committee is local. Anita herself, I think, has been the longest on duration, but is not a member, does not own land within the city limits.
Certainly, we don't want to lose you, Anita. You've done a lot of good work for us. Maybe that's something for compromise here. Maybe we grandfather in people on it now. And then moving forward.
No, I mean, I guess I wasn't aware of that. Sorry.
Oh,
But,
no, no.
I just-
I
just-
know.
and I-
There are two other people that have been on the committee that live in Warren County, but not within the city. And they've said they could be just more of, what did we call them? Advisors to the committee. So they're not voting, they're not, anything like that. They would just, they're pretty knowledgeable in like the energy sector and that kind of thing, and can give us ideas of what's worked other places and that kind of thing. So I guess I would say I don't live in the city, but I spend my money here and I care about this community. So I don't know if that's helpful in making the decision, but other people have agreed to just serve as advisors.
Actually, we may have 5 active members that don't live in the city limits. Yeah.
I
Bob,
guess this type of committee for me, being within city limits wouldn't be such a huge deal because it does take into account a lot of things that are.
Affects us financially.
Yes, but at the same time,
we do
if
have,
they are serving on the committee and they have a Norwalk address, then, then I might see an issue, but I think most is, and maybe I'm wrong, but are most of the people that are serving on it currently, are they within Indianola address?
I believe so. I think we'd probably have to verify.
We do have what's called our annexation area,
2 miles out.
2 miles out.
We could go with that.
Does that
I
mean?
mean, and I'm more concerned about when you have, I'm gonna be blunt here, when you have committees like this, activists that are kind of out there can kind of find their ways into these types of things and create havoc. And I'm not interested in that for my community. And so I guess that's my biggest concern is that people don't have a vested interest in our community. And more of just a mindset. I don't want them involved. And that's the part that I'm more concerned about than anything. So.
I don't think anybody's out to wreak havoc. I think we really have positive ideas that we think can benefit our community.
Well, you as the city council has the possibility of rejecting this.
Yep, nope, I appreciate that.
Also.
That does give us a little bit more benefit now, whereas we haven't had that before, so.
Well, for example, the Freezes, they used to live in town and they retired. They're now out of town, but I'm pretty sure they're within the 2 miles.
I don't know if the freezes are.
Are they?
I don't think they are.
I don't know exactly where their new house is, to tell you the
They're
truth.
up on.
But there still have been active members of the
Right.
committee.
We do have utilities outside the city limits currently as well. I mean, we do have a utility.
They're pretty close to the new treatment plant.
Yeah, but I mean, we do have, what am I trying to, our zones of service are outside the city limits and some of our utilities as well, so. Kind of with Christina, I think as long as we keep them close, and John, I agree too. I mean, you have some good points.
I think I get what you're saying as far as, like people from,
Yeah.
say you get somebody from Des Moines who wants to join our committee for down here. I mean, we don't want something like that happening, We want to keep it local. And I get that.
And we.
But I
kinda run
think if
into
we,
that.
yeah, but I think if we set a parameter limit around our city, of how far out somebody could live to be on the committee, then.
Can
I mean,
it
that
be
would be-
different for each commission? So I mean, this one seems, as you pointed out, but your point, John, is still, something that has gone through it with another issue. I'm not interested in that for our residents either, so.
Well, I mean, the ordinance gives you the power to approve or
Yeah,
disapprove.
you would appoint.
If you don't like me, that's fine.
I like you, Bill. Everybody likes
It's
Bill.
not you, Bill.
How about we say an Indianola address? Because Anita, you're in the country, but your city's Indianola, correct? I mean,
I'm fine with that for this commission.
and then it still comes through.
The idea was thrown out about grandfathering the current members and then going forward, being a resident of Indianola. I like that idea.
I can go either way.
I'd be okay with that.
I think we can work that out.
We have a couple weeks, kind of get that refined.
I do have a concern a little bit about the attendance side of things. I think we've been having some issues with attendance in some of our things. I noticed I think this one says 5 out of 10 meetings a year, and I do have some issue with that. I think it ought to be probably 8 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, somewhere in that neighborhood, is just personally.
Disagree with that.
No, on that one,
I think, sorry.
and reply to the email that came out, the question that came out earlier today. That change maybe is more applicable to all boards holistically, and so maybe we want to look at it in that policies.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Like mine. I just want to say, I know this is maybe not the place exactly, but I know Bill and Al and Anita have a lot of great background and have offered a lot of good advice on different things, and I do appreciate their service, so.
I agree.
Thank you. We're looking for your not only approval, but your support at our upcoming sustainability fair, April 1st. We don't have a budget either. We're not after.
Hey, well, that's easy then. We'll all be there. We didn't ask for anything.
We probably the vendors are gonna take some space. That money. We've already talked to Ben about the way that can work, where the money would end up with the city and.
So as an organization of the city, then it would fall under the city receiving those funds and paying out those expenditures so that it's handled in accordance with the state auditor and our own audit requirements.
It will be at the middle school, as it has been in the past.
Question, so I know like when we started the downtown commission, I mean, there was already kind of a set group in place, but then when we started accepting applications, we received a lot of applications from people who weren't even involved with the merchants group. So when we do this commission and bring it to the city side, are we just going to automatically then, the people who have been running it are automatically on the board and then voting in anyone else that submits applications after that?
I think the typical process would be for us to advertise, but then seek a recommendation from this group of who should be put onto it, and then it would be before mayor and council.
I guess what I'm saying is, are these folks gonna be automatically on the commission?
I don't think it's an automatic thing. I think it does require that we advertise, but at the same time, it would come to you. So their recommendations would usually end your decision making.
Yeah, plus the length of time on the board is 3 years. And the current members will have to go 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So we'll have to, starting now.
I
We're
guess
also-
what I'm asking is, are you guys gonna submit your applications then to be on your own board? Is what I'm getting at.
I may not. And still, and so maybe my wife will. We've also talked about gender balance. And so we've thought about that. So I may not, my wife and I'll arm wrestle, but she'll probably win because of planning and zoning.
She's the boss. Money's on Kathy on that one.
Me too.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank
Really
you.
Appreciate it.
Do we need to talk about the bylaws or that's?
I think
I thought
they
they,
reviewed both.
yeah, that's good. They were in our,
We're gonna have to change that ordinance a little bit, aren't we?
We will, but it will be on next meeting. So we have to do so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
item number 3 is discussion regarding the upcoming agenda items from within the November 21st, 2022 city council meeting at 7 p.m. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to maybe state that this is always our catch-all. If we ever end, this is our opportunity to cover items in the meeting as well. So.
It's gonna be, might be a long one tonight.
Long one goes really fast.
Yeah.
Right on.
So does anybody have any questions? Now is an excellent time to ask them.
The industrial park. I think it mentioned 4 parcels, but the 4 parcel numbers, but the diagram only showed 3 parcels.
Here, sorry. The industrial park indicated 4 parcels, but only those 2.
Let me look at that. That could be when Emily did this staff report, she might have been counting in the street lot. But it is 3 lots, maybe another parcel. Be ready though.
I didn't mean to spring it on you. Just,
You're fine.
we got time. I just thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah. Other questions? Now we will take a quick break until 7 p.m. So about 11 minutes. All right. Quite a group tonight.
You missed them.
22nd, if we would please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Becky, would you pull the roll?
Councilmember Hewlin,
Here. Here.
Might be online.
He is online.
You must not be able to hear.
Parker,
Present.
Selby,
Here.
Schroeder, Beach, Richardson,
Present.
Mayor Erickson.
All right, we'll begin tonight with the oath of office for firefighters and paramedics. I will call you up by name. We will start with Jill Burrell.
Yes, you did.
All right.
Out front, everybody.
Needs to be first, right? I don't know where to go. All right, I'll have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jill Burrell,
Jill Burrell.
do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and that I will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all the duties of a firefighter and paramedic, City of Indianola, Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. Congratulations. Sign it. Moving on, we'll go to Mark Butcher. I'll have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Mark Butcher,
Mark Busher,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of a firefighter and paramedic,
of a firefighter and paramedic,
City of Indianola, Iowa,
City of Indianola, Iowa,
as now or hereafter
now and hereafter
required by law.
required by law.
Congratulations. Come back up when we're all done. All right, and then Reed Smith. Have you raise your right hand? You know what you're doing by the third time, right? I, Reed Smith,
I read,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and the Constitution of the State of Iowa,
and that I will faithfully and impartially,
faithfully and impartially,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge all the duties
discharge all the duties
of a firefighter and paramedic
of a firefighter and paramedic
of the City of Indianola, Iowa,
of the City of Indianola, Iowa,
as now or hereafter required by law.
as now or hereafter required by law.
Congratulations. Thank you. Chief, then I don't have you sign that with Jackie. I'll let you guys take a picture with your chief. You don't need me in it. It's all about you. Yeah. Get on
The second one.
I gotta remember those marks.
Look at the short guy.
Contact that I'm like, "Stop, serious." Thank you. Give them all.
Test. Test, can you hear me, Andy?
We will move on to the public comment section. If you would come forward. Oh, okay. Give it just 1 minute and we can see if we can get Councilwoman Hewlin on the phone. We're having some technical difficulties, no fault of hers.
Can you guys hear me?
Hi, this is Heather. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. Thank you.
Right, public comment. I have one form here from Brandy Warner. If Brandy'd like to come forward and
Go on.
You need to put yourself on mute, Heather.
Put your phone on mute, Heather.
Brandy.
Oh, my printer broke, so I'm just going to read off my phone for tonight. I just wanted to cover our success for Wine Witches and Brews and give you a little financial information to back up our event there. This was our 6th year for the event, pulling in a record number of over 1,000 ticket sales, and has become an event several other communities try to replicate. We asked merchants to complete a survey on their experience, and the following was reported. We had an average, we didn't ask them to do a range. So they get to choose between like 0 to 1,000, 1,001 to 2,000, so on and so forth. So we were able to do a range. So after we totaled everybody's, we had 14 responses of the 30 merchants that did participate. And so we would have had a range of 24,000 to 38,000 based on the merchants that participated in the survey. So 14 responses on that. We had $14,884 in tickets and merchandise sales through the merchants group. And that's money we use seed money on other events throughout the year. So together that our event sales were between 38,000 and 52,000. And if we conservatively estimate an average of sales of $1,000 for the remaining 16 businesses that didn't participate in the survey, we would be at $54,000 to $69,000. And that's in a 4-hour event. So we found that pretty impressive and wanted to come here and thank you all for supporting our events. And it's just, I mean, we feel every single one of these events in our pockets and in our community. And we just wanted to make sure that we came in and let you know how grateful we are.
Thank you guys as well. All right, is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? Move on to item 6, the consent agenda. Are there any items that need to be pulled? I need a first and second motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And any discussion on any item?
Mayor, if I could, maybe just have Ben kind of highlight a couple of them.
Sure. The council will be setting a public hearing on December 19th for a rezoning on north end of 569, a couple of liquor license, a pay application for the square, another pay application for the water resource recovery facility, and another for Boston Avenue project with a change order of $266 in that one as well. Second and third readings for the 2 fireworks issues that are coming through, just there. Resolution approving the fiscal year 24 tax increment financing certifications. We have our fiscal year 22 annual report, as well as a resolution approving a lease agreement with the First Baptist Church and Trinity United Presbyterian Church for the parking lots out there. It's a general overview.
Just one question then. We have started using the new facility on the wastewater recovery. Is that correct?
It is opened. It is operational. Things are going through. We're working on plans right now to reclaim the old one, but it's still in the hands of our contractor. So they're kind of working in partnership with our staff to be able to maintain and operate the facility.
And are we at 100% on the new facility, or do you know?
All the flows are going through the new facility, but they're still bringing it up online to.
Right, there's no other questions.
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland,
Hi.
Yeah, she said aye. We saw it.
Aye.
Dalby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Well, she's too loud and now she's too quiet. All right, motion passed. Moving on to council report. We have the fiscal year 22 audit presentation.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Enders. I'm an audit partner with Denman and Company. Denman was engaged to perform the fiscal year 2022 audit for the city of Indianola. We were out on site in August. We do have the audited financial statements for you this evening, and we're going to go over a brief presentation of that. The report itself is admittedly a fairly dense document. It's a good 60 pages long. It's a bit of a read. So to make this a little bit more palatable tonight, we're going to throw this on a PowerPoint presentation, try to make this go fairly quickly for us, but I do want to encourage you to make sure you take a hard dive into that document. There's information in there that is really relevant to the city. But for tonight's sake, we're just going to go over real briefly our independent auditors report, look at some summarized financial data. I'll talk briefly about our responsibilities over controls and compliance reporting. And then finally, there is a brief governance letter that we issue with each of our audits that I'll share with you as well. Diving right into the independent auditors report, what you can find at the top front of the audited financial statements. Just a couple reminders I want to make here with this 3-page letter. First, the financial statements we're about to look at are those of management. Management is responsible for ensuring that the financial statements are complete, accurate, they conform with accounting standards. And as a reminder, the city uses the cash basis of accounting, which is fairly common for cities this size. And finally, management's responsible for ensuring that controls are in place to support the accuracy of those financial statements. Our responsibility as city's auditors is, of course, to perform an audit and to express an opinion on the accuracy of those statements. To do that, we perform our audit in accordance with professional standards, including, in the case of a city, government auditing standards. And it requires us to start by assessing the risk to misstatement of the financial statements and then developing audit procedures to mitigate that risk. So it might include independent confirmation of balances and transactions, recomputation of transactions, looking at a whole sorts of audit supporting documentation the city maintains, inquiries of staff, and a host of other procedures in order for us to gain an understanding of those transactions and balances inherent to the financial statements so that we can express that opinion on whether or not we believe they are accurate. I'm happy to say that we are issuing what we call unmodified or clean opinions on the financial statements. That's the highest level of assurance that our profession can provide regarding the accuracy of the financials. Diving into those financial statements, in front of us here is just a very summarized version of the statement of activities or income statement for the city as a government-wide for the year ended June 30, 2022. You have the prior year there as a comparison. Total cash receipts for the city during the fiscal period, a little over 58 million. Bear in mind that bond proceeds are in there. Of course, that's been a very large number the past 2 fiscal cycles, a little over 31 million in bond proceeds in fiscal year 2022. But you also can see there some steady growth in our other revenue streams as well. Charges for services up modestly, property taxes also up modestly. Those grants and capital grants are inherent to those capital projects. They tend to follow as we have capital expenditures. Disbursements for the year, a little over 52 million, up about 6 million from the prior period. Again, those capital projects are a big driver there. The wastewater treatment facility is tucked away in that business type activities line item. Obviously, the streetscape project is also coming through this fiscal year. But we also see growth in those more core services. Public safety is up $800,000, culture and recreation up about $300,000 as well. Change in net position, increase in net in those fund balances, about 6 million in the current fiscal year. That's a little bit skewed because of those projects. Again, bond proceeds come in before the expenditures come out. So there's going to be a timing gap there. And that's really what's driving that change in net position during the fiscal year. Speaking of fund balances, there's a quick snapshot here of our governmental fund balances, those core fund balances for those core services of the city. Capital projects is leading the way with about 13 million. That's effectively net bond proceeds that have not yet been spent out. You also see that the TIF districts have a fairly healthy fund balance of about 5.3 million and the general fund just shy of $10 million in fund balance. One of the ways we can look at the fiscal health of a city is to look at that general fund balance and look at it compared to expenditures, how much days cash on hand the city has. As a general rule of thumb, this is fairly general, 3 to 6 months of days cash on hand is considered fairly healthy. Here you have a 4-year window of what that general fund cash on hand balance is. At 2022, it's sitting at about 294 days. So well over that 6 months threshold. So it's a very healthy fund balance. I should note that within there are some designated funds for vehicle replacement, a couple other items. But it is quite a healthy balance. The decline you see over the prior year is mostly because expenses increased. There was a bit of a dip in fund balance, but not substantial, but you are spending more than you have in the past. Jumping over to our work on internal controls and compliance, as part of our professional standards, we do have a responsibility to evaluate and gain an understanding of internal controls. That helps us make better audit decisions, helps us better identify audit risk. So while we do not audit, we do not express opinion on controls, we do have this understanding that we gain. And during that gaining of an understanding, if we identify deficiencies in controls, we have a responsibility to elevate them to council through written communication here in this report. I'm happy to say we do not have any deficiencies identified in internal controls in this audit report. Along with that, the state of Iowa does ask us to look at certain compliance requirements and test those for instances of non-compliance. This ranges from a whole host of topics, from budget amendments to proper issuance of minutes and contracts to proper uses of special revenue funds like hotel, motel, and TIF districts. During the course of our work on compliance, we did identify just one minor non-compliance matter related to budget amendments. This state of Iowa does require budget amendments to occur before expenditures are overexpended. The city had one instance in the debt service fund where the debt service expenditures exceeded the budget. It's far and away the most common recommendation we have for cities. It's very finicky. So not one that we are too stressed about or worried about. It's a very common recommendation that hits the city audit. Last slide for you this evening, and then I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Along with our audit report, we do issue a governance letter. A short letter is our opportunity to speak directly to council regarding issues that we felt warrant governance's attention. This is effectively where we would air any dirty laundry that we might have. I'm happy to say I don't have any dirty laundry, so this is a fairly dry letter, which is certainly good news. But two of the more important comments that we have in any of this material are tucked away in that letter. You'll find paragraphs regarding issues encountered during the audit or difficulties with management. I'm happy to say we have none of either. I do want to stop and thank Andy and Ben and the rest of the staff for their hard work. They clearly take a lot of pride and effort in the audit process. They pay attention to us. They seem to value our feedback. I don't always get to say that, so I'm very grateful for city staff for their hard work. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have for me.
I was at a conference in September, Iowa League of Cities conference, and they were talking about the compliance issues that the state auditor is finding with cities and nonprofits, and also and the expenditure of funds to make sure that they do serve a public purpose. Is that part of your purview as well, or is that something outside of that purview?
No, that very much is. It's part of those compliance requirements that they ask us to test. Now, we do those on a rotating cycle, and we purposely haven't done that yet to pick that up in this fiscal year cycle because we were talking staff still. We want to make sure staff had a chance to digest that state information and enact changes if they felt changes were necessary. So staff has been very active on that topic as well, and we've had conversations with them.
Yeah. So that's to come then, is that what you're saying?
We will do specific procedures on that next slide.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report.
Second.
And Doug Shaw here, so if there are any questions, you can certainly answer them and give us a highlight.
There would just be a couple of three things that I might point out. This would report mayor and council members for the month of October, which is the month. Kind of the three things. One of the things in here was that we received property taxes during the month of October. So if you were to compare the fund balances at the end of September to the fund balances at the end of October, they went up about 3.2 million, which would be a normal thing to happen. And the other thing is there is down about, I'm sure you get the same report that I do, but halfway down the page is a line item called industrial park improvement. And it's a $2 million item, which would be a little bit unusual for us, but it did happen during the month of October. And I think the proceeds probably come from, yes.
We did, we went through a process for the industrial park improvements.
And I think there's some things on the agenda later about industrial park, but, okay, so that's item number 2. Item number 3 is, and we've seen this really every month, the interest rates that we're earning continue to climb because the Federal Reserve seems like we've had about 4 of those 75 basis point increases. We do see a little better interest rate, which is to the advantage of the city, but that would be my report, subject to questions you all might have.
I don't know if this is for Doug or Andy, but, and I apologize, I didn't get this question to you earlier, but the local option sales tax, we've now started receiving that on a monthly basis. Is that right? And they're a month behind. Is that correct?
We always received it on a monthly basis. The switch that they've done is now that they're paying it out as they go.
Okay.
As they collect it, they'll be paying it out instead of doing it on the basis. We should have received one here mid-month because they switched over to a mid-month and it's about a month and a half.
We'll see that in the next, probably in the next report then. Is that probably where we see that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, all those in favor to receive and file the October 22nd treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Those? That's okay. All right, I need a first and second motion to receive and file the October 2022 EMS billing activity report. Any questions for Chief Chia? Come on, Ron. We almost depend on you now.
I mean, I don't have it. If you wanted some comments, I mean, I see that EMS calls were down 16%. Total was down 8%. So I mean, I guess that's good, right?
For some people.
Yeah.
And actually, that's about another 30 above the last few years. So we were averaging over 280 calls a month, down to 260, whether that's good or bad, but. And you notice the number of collections has gone up.
Can I just ask, what's a good intent call?
Good intent? Good intent can be actually a number of things. So if somebody just calls because they fell and they need assistance to be lifted or just get back, a chair or bed. So that's primarily what our good intent calls are.
Gotcha. I just wasn't sure what it was. Figured I'd ask.
Just one question on the false alarm and false calls. Is there actually a charge that we do on some of those or what?
You get 3 free ones.
Okay,
12 months.
3 free ones. Okay.
Habitual violators.
Okay. That's kind of what I was wondering.
Then they,
Well, it's typically kids, I'm assuming.
no.
No?
The ones that are at the schools, yeah. They're curious, they grab those little red things and.
They really?
Stations, yeah.
I've always wondered.
Now we have a test tomorrow. Okay. Today.
Thanks, Chief Chia.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor to receive and file the October 2022 EMS billing report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Say nay. Okay. And next we have up an update regarding the tourism website in consideration of approval of a claim from the Indianola Chamber of Commerce. We have Pritesh Patel and Amanda Zanzwe here to present. Questions?
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so excited to be meeting with you guys tonight. Pritesh is getting set up to give you guys a quick tour of the tourism website. I just wanted to take an opportunity and just say I'm, as the chamber, the new chamber director, I'm super excited to be working with the city and partnering with the city, not just on tourism, but on all things. I walked away from being a business owner here in the community. I've been a member of the Indianola community for 20 years, and I just have extreme passion for not just economic development and growth, but community betterment, and believe that we have a hidden gem. I spent 8 years of my career selling experiences all over the world and working with destination management companies all over the world. And here in Indianola, we have something to market. And I know this from my experience in the past. And so I'm really excited to be able to get involved. I've only been here for less than 3 weeks, so I'm just getting familiar with the process so far. But I do know that we have gone through the majority of the real, what I would consider the technical details of the tourism site development. There's a lot of data integration that needed to take place to be able to pull in not just our membership, but prepare it for really any business or organization to be able to be a part of the tourism website. So those background tools, that was the big heavy lifting, and that has been done. And really where we have left is a lot of the content with the itineraries and what I would consider the true marketing pieces and the the niche that we need to create. And we're going to be hopefully presenting some more of those concepts in December. But we wanted to take an opportunity to show you where we're at. I'm anticipating just this base level, being able to have something in front of you guys ready to launch by spring, fingers crossed. But that's gonna, to me, be a collective of community members or a task force getting engaged and confirming that this is the tourism program we want to sell. So I'm gonna let Pritesh drive from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Amanda. Hey, everyone. Pritesh, owner of Hotel Palmier. Thank you for having us. I just want to say, we came here a few months back, kind of pitching the idea of having a tourism site for Ninola. I want to thank you guys for giving us the opportunity to take that idea we had and turn it into something. We're not quite there yet, but I think, as you can see, definitely on our way, and we're super excited to share what we have so far. It's not complete, but it's a live site. It's rough around the edges, like Amanda said. It's not as simple as creating a website. I mean, we have an integration with a CRM system, so businesses can update their listings and have that be self-service, so we don't have somebody sitting in a closet updating listings all day when someone changes their phone number. So it's quite a bit behind the scenes, but we have a good start. So this is the homepage. Pending, the branding, I think we want to really get the community together and make sure this is a brand that we can all be proud of. But we're going with Explore Ninola right now, Launch Your Adventure. The whole point of the site is that it's mobile friendly, very high on images, focus on images, 1 or 2 clicks. I think you mentioned how easy is it to find information. We want to look at videos. Right now it's just static images, but having some videos so it's a little bit more interactive, and that's the content that really drives engagement. So when you first launch the website, clear navigation, events, things to do and drink, where to stay. Those are the things that visitors want to know about right there at the top. And then a nice call to action around planning your visit on the top right. And obviously social media links at the top. As you scroll through, it'll have, again, the data still, we're working on the data integration, so you'll see some things repeated here, but we'll have a list of upcoming events. So we have, Vintage Hills has a festival wreath. So we'll have a scrolling list of events coming up. And then this is where we start talking about the itineraries. So we have, outdoor activities going on, places to stay, places to eat. And then we're calling our marquee events, like National Balloon Classic, Warren County Fair, Disc Golf Competition, Des Moines Opera, having clear pages and calls to actions for those specific events. And then obviously a social media wall, pulling a live feed of images from Instagram and others. If we go into events, we have an event calendar, and it's pull up. Open an event, there's a nice description, a photo of the event, links to learn more, maps of how to get there, that sort of thing. Go to things to do. And local guide, National Balloon Classic, or National Balloon Museum, and some of the main attractions will have dedicated pages for those. And then at the bottom of every page, we'll have a directory of all of the attractions and businesses. Right now, it's just filtering on every single business. We'll get that narrowed down. So for example, here's an image of Adorn, great shop on the square, with a nice image, descriptions, and the categories to browse all the other things to do. And again, this is coming directly from the Chamber's database, so we're not having to call business and have them create another listing that they have to manage online.
Real quick, not to completely derail you. So previously, when I had asked about businesses and which ones would
For
be
both,
on there,
yeah.
it's gonna be for chamber businesses and non-chamber,
Yeah.
correct? Okay.
Right now, it's
Just
just
wanted to make
pulling
sure.
chamber. We have to tweak it in the back end so we can allow non-chamber business to get a listing. Yep. We're just trying to get the main basics of the structure right now.
The itineraries we're gonna be building out are really like, hey, if you want an outdoor weekend, a 3-door outdoor weekend, marketing Indianola as an opportunity for a getaway to have all of these opportunities. I mean, there's such an abundance of outdoor activities in this area. So we'll build this out so people don't have to discover, do as much searching they might want to. But a lot of people like tours, they just want somebody to tell them what they need to come do. So we'll be building out that information too, to make it easy and very specific to the various interests of people who are looking for a weekend getaway.
Yeah, I think the benefit we have is that we already have thousands of people coming here already, right? For the classic, for the opera, for all these events. So if we can serve up an itinerary where they're not just going to the balloon fields and leaving, they're going to the balloon fields, they're having dinner, they're doing some shopping. Even if we increase that by like 5%, that's a ton of tax revenue coming in that we're not getting right now. And what's happening right now is, Stacy at the Balloon Classic, Michael at the opera, everybody's doing this, they're on their own. So somebody might have a Word document they send to their visitors. Somebody might be sending them to Google, and there's no unified approach. And we're not selling a common experience, right? So if somebody comes to Enola, do we tell them, oh, there's nothing to do here, or go walk on a trail? Like we're all saying different things, and that impacts our brand, right? So we all want to come together as a community, say, hey, come to Enola, you're going to get X, Y, and Z, and start building that commonality across all of our experiences.
And that market isn't just the tourist. That market is also business and organizations who do retreats and annual events and getaways from an employee perspective throughout Iowa, because that market's there. I worked with them before. And so we're a perfect fit for pursuing that kind of business interest and being able to create packages for them. So that we'll try to build in a meeting component into this eventually. In phase one, it's not there, but in future phases it will.
That's all we have. Take questions or.
If like a small organization wants to host an event in Indianola, how are they going to be able to contact you to see if they could get their event added to the website?
They could actually do that right now. If they go to the chamber, any organization can submit an event and it shows up on the chamber's community calendar. We'll be pulling a subset of those events, like the tourism related ones, into this website. And that gets that to some of the data integration, just so we're not creating a whole new another platform that you have to submit your event to the city, to the chamber, to Explore Enola, to the merchants downtown. I mean, it should all be kind of centralized.
When we originally started this, we talked about maybe Simpson doing some of the programming. Is that how it went, or did we kind of bypass Simpson? And
so we're not quite there yet. I think we spent quite a bit of time just getting the structure. So now I think we're comfortable with the branding, the V1 of the branding, the structure of the site. Now I think we have to really focus on the content, on where we source that content, getting high quality images, high quality video, and then getting it on the site. I think Simpson is definitely something we want to tap into for sure.
You work for the designer at this point though, right? Up to this.
Yeah,
point.
so Gradient 9, a local website, see here in Indianola, find the site, helped us with the logo and the branding. That's the main partner we've been working with.
We did just get notice today that we were awarded a grant from Iowa Tourism for a video development. So that will be a real asset to our community. But again, we've got to go through kind of this strategy session to determine exactly what we want to market before we start anyone working on that video. And so it'll be important though, because the tourism grant will need to get utilized soon. So
I saw the chief over there smiling with his drone guys over there, I think. So I appreciate what you folks have done. One of the things I was just sitting here thinking as you were doing your presentation during Ridiculous Days last year, we had a baseball tournament here in Indianola, and we ended up with a lot of those folks coming down to the square during Ridiculous Days. And I like the thing at the top there where, you can or stay, eat and drink, or whatever the case is. And I think if people know that website, find a way to make it easy for people to find that website, it should be easy for them to support our community. So
And I just
It'll
want to
be an
say this
asset.
is amazing. Like, I love the look of it. I think it looks great.
this will be an asset for the people who live here too. Because a lot of people who live here don't know all the things that we have to offer. So it'll play well for Indianola community residents.
Very good work.
It's great.
So I see you got Explore Indianola and Launch Your Adventure is are we, guess I may be a little out of the loop here. Are we stuck on Explore and Enola? I kind of like lunch adventure or something. I don't know.
I personally think that we should do a community engagement. Get a task force together, develop a few ideas and then engage the community because I think that they should weigh in on what the brand is gonna be. Because we all represent the community. And so there's various ways that we can go about doing that. This is a great brand so far, but I would hate to launch it out there and not have, gotten input from all the people who contribute to tourism in our community, as well as the people who are going to represent it. So.
I guess the only thing I was thinking too is I think there's one other community in the metro that uses the word explore, if I'm not mistaken. West Des Moines or Waukee or somebody, I don't know.
Yeah, West Des Moines does.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard when you get into tourism to find that word, but there are some unique opportunities we could pursue. So, yeah.
Good.
Looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah, very, very good
More
job.
to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Ooh, and move on. I need a first and second motion to approve a payment of the claim from the Indianola Chamber of Commerce in the amount of $20,000.
Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Here anymore.
Can't see her.
Aye.
She's there.
Mute your phone.
Parker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Hewlin, do we have you back?
Yeah. Up or down?
And she is.
There you go.
Right, motion passes 6-0. I need a first and second motion to approve the appointment of Marvin Gibbons to the Downtown Square Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending June 30th, 2025.
Second.
And roll call.
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
All right, welcome aboard, Marvin. I will get him information on then so he can begin attending. Next is the mayor's report. I'll be really short because we've got quite a few pages left, quite a few people in attendance. Want to hear other things. So, we had a couple of ribbons cuttings, St. James celebration, Swagabees in Overton. We were home the last few weeks. Very excited about Amanda joining us. She just left. Mayor's Youth Council, we are continuing to prepare for our Home for the Holidays event, which will be a Whoville inside the courthouse. And students will help children write letters to Santa Claus. And then we have a tour coming up at Harvest Academy. And that's all I have. All right, we will move into public consideration.
I have
Steve, I'm sorry, Steve does have an update from.
CERT, Central Iowa Regional Transportation Alliance. Just real briefly, I'm sorry, Jackie, if I didn't get this on the agenda, but it is one thing that are we okay with this?
Yep. Okay, fine.
It was basically a meeting. I think AP was on it as well as part of the technical group, but essentially what we did was a lot of financial things. We had some payments from to MPO, Development Planning Organization that we had to do. We also voted on a calendar for 23 meeting dates. Some participation in Title VI documentation, which is some technical things we had to do. And also some report on the funding from the infrastructure bill and some of the monies that are coming through, which we also get for some of that Hillcrest project or some of the funding for Hillcrest. And basically the kind of review some of the small communities fund application and TAP process updates. So that's what we talked about. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Moving on into public consideration, starting with old business at 1010 North Jefferson Way. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding an application for an exemption of sign code at 1010 North Jefferson Way, Indianola, Iowa.
So moved as read.
Charlie? Becky, sorry, I didn't know Charlie had something to say on this.
Councilmember Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Selby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Right, I need a first and second motion to close the public.
We gotta have.
Oh, we gotta have, well, that now it's time for Charlie to speak. See, I got so excited. Yeah, Jackie much better looking than Charlie.
You know.
One of these days. Charlie, you're just as good. Equal.
All right. Really quick on this one, current city code does require that all ground signs that are taller than 20 feet have to meet the front yard setback in the commercial zoning district, which is 40 feet. The applicant in this case is asking for an exemption from these sign codes. Closer than that 40 feet requirement, mainly because 40 feet is exactly where they're building a setback right now. Any questions on that? Be happy to answer them.
I'm assuming they have to have the height anyway because they sit so low, because I'm assuming that height goes from wherever the ground is there, not where the highway
Yep.
level is, so.
And this one, and I don't know the exact height of it, looking at the thing, I know it's somewhere in there, but it's not a terribly tall sign to begin with either, but yeah, well, you're 100% right, that is depressed a little bit there from the highway, so.
Further down the agenda is talking about the proposal for the new sign code. Did I read in there that we're proposing that no pole signs?
Yeah, we can get into that one. Oh, yeah.
I
But
mean, I see a pole sign right now.
yeah, so this is for a pole sign. The application is in under our current code, which does currently allow for pole signs.
Last two exemptions we have to deal with, and then we'll move to the new code.
Your last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take note because these should be the last two. With, so.
We'll hold you to that, Charlie.
Want to speak?
If there's anyone else wanting to speak on this matter, you can come forward. Please state your name and address for the record. Okay, if not, I need a first and second motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Thank you, Jackie.
Councilmember Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Need a first and second motion on the resolution approving an application for exemption of sign code at 1010 North Jefferson Way, Indianola, Iowa.
So moved. Okay.
Any just more discussion on that? All right, Jackie.
Councilmember Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Number 2 is 102 North Jefferson Way. I need a first motion to open the public hearing regarding an application for exemption of sign code at 102 North Jefferson Way, Indianola, Iowa.
Move to red.
And Jackie.
Councilmember Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
And on this one, pretty much the same exact thing that we dealt with in the last one. It is an exemption to the location requirement, again, with the commercial zoning district. A sign at this height is required to step back 40 feet. The applicant is asking for the sign to be located closer to the right of way than that. So any questions on this one, would be happy to answer them.
How far off the road is it?
This one, and I don't have the exact measurements, it's within the parking lot island that would be at the corner of Salem and Jefferson Way. So it's about probably 10 to 12 feet would be my guess.
Was there a previous pole sign there?
There was not, no.
Well, there was many years ago.
Oh. Probably in the last 4 years. I don't recall there being one.
Long time.
Anyone is wanting to speak on this matter, you can come forward at this time. Please state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, I need a first and second motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Jackie.
Councilmember Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
The first and second motion on a resolution approving an application for an exemption of sign code at 102 North Jefferson Way, Indianola, Iowa.
Second.
You and discussion. Jackie.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
I need a first and second motion for resolution improving a major site plan application for a drive-through restaurant on 102 North Jefferson Way.
So move.
Thank you. And discussion.
Can really quick get a summary on this one. Normally, so this is an existing building at 102 North Jefferson Way. Currently a single tenant building. They are converting it to a 2-tenant building. Normally, this would go through what is considered our minor site plan process, which is reviewed at the staff level, does not come forward to the commission or council. However, on this particular site plan, they are adding just under 20,000 square feet of impervious surface to the site, which is one of the requirements that does trigger it as a major site plan and why it's coming to council. There's a lot of data in there, I think, with the staff report and the memo on traffic counts. One thing I did want to point out that chapter 16507 does require one off-street parking spot per 150 square feet, which in total does require 19 parking spaces. The site plan that is provided shows 18 being provided. Really, when we looked at that originally before it came to the Planning and Zoning Commission, they were showing 15. We did get them to get 3 more, but they're really maximizing the available area on that lot for parking. So while they're not meeting the parking requirement, I think we're that we do have pretty close to that minimum requirement. There is also some parking availability across the street here at this building. That is a public parking lot. There are public parking lots that are in close proximity, and then the private parking lot just to the north of this. So staff did recommend an okay going forward with just the 18 parking spaces, where 19 were required. And that was actually a condition of the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the applicant did satisfy that between the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and this meeting. So with that, be happy to answer any questions if there are any in this one.
Questions? All right. Jackie?
Councilmember Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Peach,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
On to item number 3, sign code. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding an amendment to chapter 165 by adding a sign code and deleting chapter 167.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember B,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker,
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
And really quick, I'm going to introduce Chris Shires with Confluence. Confluence has been helping us out with our code updates. We first started with our zoning code update, which was completed last year. We are now working on our sign code update. Obviously, this is the final step of that process. After this, we are going to move into our subdivision code update. And then I think after that, we also have a few minor other code amendments that we are contracted with to work on as well too. But I'm going to hand this over to Chris. He's got a short presentation to give you and he can answer any questions that come about.
Mayor and Council, Chris Shires with Confluence again. Great to be back in front of you to talk about our favorite topic, sign code. I'm going to try to go through my presentation as quickly as possible. Just an overview of where we're putting in the code, why we're doing it, and then just the format. And what I'd say, to be fair, if you have a question as I'm going through it, feel free to interrupt me. And then, of course, definitely questions and comments afterwards. So on the next. All right. So, why are we doing this? You did see the comments in the staff report. We do need to update your sign code to make sure we're complying with federal case law. There are some areas of concern, and we do want to modernize it, update it with how we look at signage today. We are making this as a part of the zoning ordinance itself, putting it there at the very end, new chapter 10. The sign code itself has a lot of different components. I'm not going to go through every single section. I'm going to hit on prohibited signs, the sign types, sign regulations, and then the very important design standards. So let's talk a little bit about signs that are prohibited. So this is really on your current list of prohibited signs, really looking at those sign types we tend not to like to see. The one thing I would note especially is that we're recommending that permanent signs that are considered off premise, meaning they're not advertising activity on site. We sometimes think of those as billboard signs, would be prohibited. Temporary signs that are off premise would be permissible in this ordinance. At least as we're proposing it. We follow into some major sign categories. We have permanent signs. So these are just like that sounds, signs that you frankly approve variances on tonight. Wall signs, building signs, signs that are up for many, many years versus temporary signs. And even those fall into a couple of categories. From that, let's talk a little bit about the permanent signs. In the zoning ordinance itself, within this chapter are some tables that really lay out the sign standards by zoning district. So across the top of all your different zoning districts, from ag, residential, commercial, and industrial, and then the sign types along the edge. And so for this case, building wall signs, we're proposing to be more generous in the volume of signage, especially when it's related to commercial and industrial properties, but a little more choosy when we get to some of the design standards that I'll touch on a little bit farther on. Ground signs, not trying to change them dramatically, with the exception are recommending the elimination of pole signs as a permitted pole sign type. These have to be monument signs or signs that are kind of a monument in shape, so not supported by individual poles. That is kind of common with where we're generally moving in the world towards sign regulation. However, which was really timely for tonight, we're looking at an alternative way to do setbacks for monument signs. Think of it more as a 1-to-1 ratio. For every foot of height, you have a foot of setback, although we do start at a minimum 5-foot setback. Moving along, we have some other special sign types. Now, we're not trying to regulate signs by what they say. We're not allowed to do that, but we can regulate them by zoning district and by property. And so in this case, we have a signage special for drive-through facilities. We're not saying what they have to say, but just as a drive-through facility, you do need some additional signs. Signs on ATM machines, those freestanding machines. They also want to address corporate flags as a very common thing. Now, one thing I will note in this ordinance, we are not regulating US, state, local flags. Whatever somebody wants to do is in essence what they're allowed to do. We're talking about signs for corporations, signs or flags that are actually acting as commercial signs. Now let's get into the temporary signs. This tends to be the most controversial area. We used to get to pick and choose and say we can have real estate signs and for sale signs, but then prohibit a sign saying there's a sale on milk here at the store. We have to keep this rather flat. And to some extent, we do need to be fair to business community. They do need to advertise for special events, activities going on, let alone when a property is for sale for lease. So we've broken them into the major categories. Ag and residential have a much lower standard or a lighter allowance for temporary signs, whereas the commercial properties more generous. In this case, one of these temporary signs for property frontage, for building tenant, as well as these temporary A-frame signs or sidewalk signs. We then also talk about non-commercial signs that are temporary. I think this could be a free speech sign, a political sign, political advertisement. In this case, only regulating size and placement, not number nor time of year. One thing to be really for us to remember is state law does not set time limits on when campaign signs can be up. That is something, if you wanted to place limits, we'd have to write that elsewise in your code. But that is something that is not a thing in state law anymore. And that's something we used to rely back on. And so in this case, to keep it easy, people can have their political signs. We just set some limits on size and placement. All right. A little bit on the design standards by all those same sign categories. So building signs pushing to more of an individual channel letter, symbol, getting away from the plastic smooth panel sign. Also moving away from what we call the raceway backers. So that sports clip sign, that sign is adhered to a raceway backer. Sometimes building owners or sign installers want to use those because they're easier. There's a practical hardship. In those cases, proposing such as the merchant bonding sign backer that is contoured to the shape sign. And I would note, I should point that out, that AT&T sign would be a compliant sign in this ordinance because it's individual letters and a button sign for the individual logo. But that Little Conductor's toy store sign would not be compliant because that is a panel sign. So really on the wall signage being more generous with square footage, a little more restrictive on sign type quality. Language related to projecting signs. Typically, this is for your downtown district. This is for C3. And then, of course, ground signs. I talked earlier about the prohibition on future pole signs. No painted signs. Again, moving towards a higher quality sign. Still trying to be generous in the volume, height. And then electronic message center. So these are those digital display signs. You have them in your community now. We have suggested some language on putting some limitations, that they're not full animated graphics, that there's a dwell time where they can't change that image more than every 30 seconds. It can still be a fully colored digital image of whatever they want to have, but it's not moving graphic. It's not flickering, showing motion. Also some limitations on lights. In fact, we heard that as being a concern at the Planning Commission meeting. So setting a standard on how bright these signs are, and that they're adjusting at night and during the day. And then some standards on sizes. Still want to allow them as a sign type, and especially for fuel price signs and how they might be divided up. That's why we're suggesting no more than 32 square foot, but it could be made up of multiple boxes to get to that 32 square foot, say in a fuel price sign.
So is that 32 per face or 32 total? So only 16 per face?
32 per face. So on a double-sided sign.
Okay, so then my question is gonna be, what do you do in a highway commercial situation, as I'm thinking of, as you're heading, where your speed starts to increase as you're heading north out of town? The Chevrolet dealership, or the Greg Young. Those types of situations, 32 square feet is pretty small.
Right.
So is that something where they just have to apply for a variance on that?
So our recommendation, at least in this ordinance, is that as they're wanting larger lettering, visibility for their sign, that they're going to go towards a panel, halo cut, routed face sign that's compliant, and reserve that electronic message center for something of a smaller message that they can then use up that full sign areas. Some communities, it's kind of one of those challenges where, as the commission or as the council, you guys decide, do you want electronic message centers? If so, how big? If so, what standard? Some communities say none, and other communities do allow much larger.
I guess that's one thing I think. I wouldn't disagree with that in 95% of our community, but there are certain areas where I don't think that's going to be near big enough. If you go, example is where Burkhead Electric is, where Phillips Forge used to be, that sign's 25 square feet, and even adding up to make it the full 32. I'm sorry, that sign is. That sign is 32 square feet. It's still too small from where it sits back on the highway. You don't see it as well. So we just want to, I think we need to give a little bit of thought to that, but you're right. Most of the area that is 32 would be more than enough, especially in town with your, I mean, like the one out front of the city hall here is more than enough size, considering your traffic's 30, 35. A lot of times people sit in stoplights. I also do have a question and concern with 30-second time. That is an eternity in messages. Just Des Moines is 8 seconds and people flip out over that. And I just, as a guy, I mean, this is my industry. So I'm just, and that's, we're good friends. But this is one where sign guys and guys.
I was waiting for you.
I know you were.
And I was too, because I want to know where that case is.
Just so you.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm really concerned on a couple of those items, but otherwise said, I think all in all, this is great.
So you would tweak the time, I take it a little bit.
Oh, most certainly.
You know what the cities is on, our messaging board for timing?
What are signs?
I think they're different depending on.
The message.
Yeah, message.
Most of the time, I would tell you, most people probably set them at 3 to 5 seconds.
Usually 10 seconds top.
5 to 10, yeah.
On that briquette sign, are you talking about the one that's actually on the building?
It's on the pole, no, it's on the pole. You can see on. the
It
pole.
is really small.
Greg Young's, they do have that.
Yeah, but it's really.
They have that one flashing sign underneath their main sign, that one.
That's their LED sign. That one's big. That one's probably by 10 feet.
I take your recommendations, John. I think obviously that's your industry, so.
I think you're right, though. It's probably only a few on the perimeter of town.
Right, there's just a handful, but I just want to make sure that we're aware of that, careful pit, again, coming from my industry, we get frustrated when we get pigeonholed into everything, but I also understand as the guy sitting up here and been doing this for long enough, you can't write specific code for everything that can happen, so.
Now, what about when a sign is already there, like all these variances we just approved, they're all grandfathered in? So
You
then,
do until you make a change.
until you make a change, and then they have to comply with the new standards, right?
Correct, yeah.
And I'm sure that people should know that, but I think that probably continues to be a rub was for us, so it might be a good idea to let, businesses
Some
know.
people are gonna know too. I've got 3 things in front of the Board of Adjustment for the City of Des Moines right now, just for that same thing, asking for.
Yeah, it's just so expensive for a new business, and I think we need to do it. I'm supporting it. I just think that's a PR thing.
As long, okay, for a new business, so Gwen, I think if they go into an existing building that currently has a pole sign, that's gonna be fine. And no,
Once you change that business name and you change that face, that becomes non-conforming.
If I may, just to make sure really clear, because it's in the last page of the ordinance, we talk about the nonconformity. It depends on the level of reconstruction they're doing on site, that they're triggering that site plan review. In fact, this is something we discussed at the commission level. Otherwise, you can change that sign face, you could change the message. That would be fine. If you start doing a substantial change to the site, it becomes a site plan item to discuss.
I guess that's where I was kind of
Or
coming
if
from.
it gets destroyed.
So an example would be if we had a building that had a pole sign and the current occupant of that building left, but the new occupant took the same building, didn't make any substantial changes to the building, they would be grandfathered in then, is that right?
Change the face.
Just change the face.
But
Okay,
if you want to change the location of the sign,
that's correct. Yeah.
then it's.
Yeah, then it's a different story. Yeah.
Make it bigger or anything different.
Right.
But if it's just like, for instance, if the owner, if it's a renter or a leasee and the leasee leaves and you have a new leasee in, you're not really having to change the location of the sign, just the face. Okay. All right.
As a new tenant come in.
Right. On the same page. Okay.
I just think anything we can do to let small businesses know, because that's a big expense for small businesses. We have a lot of small businesses.
Last slide. Just wanted to make sure you're aware of in the ordinance, what we're proposing is that where room allows that within our C3 district, so think downtown, that you could do while business is open, a small A-frame sandwich sidewalk style sign. There are some limitations. Otherwise, we're saying no signs or private signs allowed within city right of way. This would be an exception since most buildings are on the right of way line, have that sidewalk out front. It's a typical thing we see in a downtown, and it's consistent with the allowing other businesses while they're open to have their own sidewalk sign. In those cases, those would be on private property. That is it for the presentation. Let's skip to the next agenda item there. We're touching that. Any questions? And I heard a little bit of feedback for us because we sure could draft something and bring it back next meeting.
You want to look at the time on them?
I guess I just assume cut that by third. I'd say 10 seconds, but that's just me.
I
just, again, most of the time, if you think about it, you're going, most of them are going to be on the highway corridor part, because that's about the only place they can be. So 92, the traffic's free flowing, but you go down 65, 69, 30 seconds. That's a whole cycle of that at a stoplight. So, you're going to get 1, maybe 2 messages, and the whole intent of those signs is to be used to put messages out there. I understand where I know there's some back and forth on the theories of why they don't want them flashing and video and all that stuff, distractions and things like that. But when you're going slow through town, I think you could speed that up a little bit and not really affect it much. Because again, Des Moines at 8 seconds is an eternity. So.
Maybe the signs that are big and flashing that cause more, like me personally, like the one coming in from out of town, 6569 at the car dealership. That light or those lights mess with me every time.
They should.
Where they're going.
I
It's the same with the new liquor store out here. They've got those lights that are just.
I would tell you that one out in town, I don't know that they ever had that adjusted right, because one of the plug for one of the brands we make or that we sell is automatically kicks down from 10,000 nits during the day to 500 nits during the evenings, you know, because of that. You know, they automatically do that. So I'm assuming that one, because I called Chuck Bergen years ago and said, you gotta do something about that. My office is just north of that, and I'd look out there and it's like, the yellows were blinding, so.
So John, are you suggesting then that we have them bring us back with suggested changes then and go from there?
Yeah, I think so. I'm okay, I guess, with the size, just with the understanding that Charlie, I guess, if you run into that situation with a car dealership on North End, I mean, when you got to take into account, yeah, I get 32 square feet seems big, but you're sitting, you know, 65, 70 feet off the highway, traffic's 55, 65 miles an hour, you know.
I would just say from a variance standpoint, that's really where hardships start kicking in on that stuff. So it is probably a good variance case if council's comfortable with that.
I was just wondering if when you get to a speed change, but you get above a certain speed, then your signs could theoretically get a little larger. Is that something that's possible?
Yeah, because, yeah, you have to take that into account when you're looking at visibility. But again, you're talking about a very small port, you know, to me, I think that's probably the better places to get through variance and.
To me, it's also like a safety thing, right? You know, people are flying down the highway going 55 miles an hour. And, oh, did I miss that tiny little sign? Slam on my brakes.
Well, and too, what you gotta understand too, is the message center signs aren't going to be, generally, they are not the sign for the race. Usually the name's above it and it's incorporated in for more messages, so.
Really quick then on procedure, if we are just changing the timing on the EMC component, we move forward with first consideration with the noted changes to that one section. Or do we?
Make it a duty to approve with that change.
This change.
I figured so. We have 5 pages of code and little things. So
Sorry, I don't mean to be a monkey.
you're fine.
Monkey wrench in here.
I have one question, Chris. So on your presentation with the flags,
Yes.
was that just for commercial use or was that also residential use as well?
Just the business flag, just a corporate flag. So like if Cement wanted to put up a big 20 by 20 flag with their logo on it, that's technically a sign, is what he's saying.
Correct. And it does no prohibition on a homeowner flying a US state, federal, local, or free speech flag.
That's what I was concerned about. Thank you.
Yeah.
What about a home-based business?
That would be prohibited. They'd have to follow the very limited amount of signage allowed for an in-home basis.
Did you, Chris, can you go back quick to the political sign? Did you say, did that recently change at the state level where they need to be removed?
No,
About 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's
now.
been a while.
Oh, really?
yeah.
There used to be a timeline
Right.
place for political
I
signs
thought
and
there's-
that does not
We
exist.
had a city code that said they had to be picked up.
Yeah,
within
when I
7
ran,
days.
I had to have mine removed.
And it was a
Yeah.
typical thing we had in city codes.
That we will no longer have that or.
And what I don't
Keep that
recall
in
right
there.
now, because it's been a while since I went through it in detail, if your code today says it. But it becomes very problematic to start putting a time limit on that type of temporary sign. Because what is the political season? It seems to kind of be never ending. And now we're starting to regulate content, which we're not supposed to do. And so we can still regulate, make a difference between here's the regulations for a commercial sign, here's the regulations for, in essence, a free speech, ideological, or political issue sign. Now, we do talk about a temporary sign having a 6-month life, that they're only allowed up for 6 months at a time. And that's really a ratty clause. So if the sign starts looking ratty, the city could investigate, say that's been up for more than 6 months, replace it. But they could take it down and put up another identical sign. It just has to be new.
We had a situation here in Indianola and it was large barn sign, appropriate where it was placed, but it was kept up all year long. Now, I'm not gonna go into what candidate it is because it doesn't matter,
Right.
but some of the neighbors were upset about it. And so I referred them to our code and said, you can contact community development, you can reference this code that says it has to be 7 days after the election. It was kind of saving grace for us. And then hometown Manchester, Iowa, they had a sign up for a political candidate all year long because they don't have that clause in their code. And so I do kind of like having the 7 days. Because how do you enforce it? It's kind of like garage sale signs, right? I mean, how do you enforce it? Those are picked up and that we keep our streets clean.
And on one hand, we can sure come back with something different. What we're proposing in the sign code is to actually try to keep things as easy as possible and maybe as the least challenge for you as possible. What is the difference between a campaign sign and a free speech sign? I'm not sure I can tell you. And I sure can't write a code that says it. So that's kind of the problem is what's the difference between flying a flag that has a certain political message that is almost identical to political campaign sign. And so that's really that gray area. At one point before some Supreme Court rulings, this was a lot easier for us to deal with. Now it's not so easy. And so we've been migrating towards this hands off. Now, some cities do put more restrictions, say you get 4 of these free speech signs, no bigger than X. Well, during an election cycle, you may be supporting N different candidates for all the different offices. And so it gets back to, again, trying to say, well, that's a political campaign sign. No, that's a free speech sign. This is an ideology sign. And so it's kind of a quagmire to say they gotta come down at a certain point.
Are we changing that 7-day year with this particular sign code?
We would. in
Yeah,
essence,
and really quick, and Chris mentioned it, and I just want to reiterate it as much as I can. There's been Supreme Court cases on this, gosh, probably 3 over the last 10 to 15 years now that have gone to the United States Supreme Court on sign codes. And really what it comes down to is you're starting to get to a point where you're judging content on a sign, which you cannot really, Supreme Court said you cannot do that. So
Like a campaign sign would be completely different than an ideology or a. to
but
me,
you
I mean,
can't differentiate it. That's the
Evidently not.
problem.
I'm more concerned about restricting, not majorly restricting, but I really don't want a 4x8 sign. I wouldn't put one in my front yard. I really don't want one in our, I mean, 2x3 is plenty big enough in a residential area. I'd be more concerned about that than I am the length of time.
I mean, have you traveled to areas where they're up all year long? I mean, I've been to several and it's not pretty. I mean,
I
they're,
get it, but
you
you know
know,
what, that's my right as an American citizen. If I want to state something, I'm going to state it.
Yeah.
I'm not in the interest just of beauty to.
a candidate sign would be different to me than stating something, but I guess not.
Not everybody feels that way though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Just remember.
So-
Gonna get messy.
We cannot differentiate, our
Mhm.
code cannot differentiate, we can't say political sign, we can't say.
Yeah,
free
if
speech
the law
sign.
says we can't,
It's
we
all
can't.
gotta
But
be-
we can regulate the size, correct?
Yes, definitely, yes.
And by
And we do that.
I think as long as we regulate the size, then to me, you know, if it's up year round, it is what it is, you know?
I think we just try to hold our peers responsible to get
Yeah.
those picked up in a timely
I
manner.
think most campaigns will pick them up simply because they want people to continue to support them if they're gonna run for reelection. And most people will call them and complain if they don't, and they won't have them put a sign in there for next time.
We have snow, we have change of season too. I mean, in
I think all our
Texas.
candidates did a great job this last
They did.
time too, on all sides. So
Really quick, and the other thing I would add is, I mean, if that's something ultimately, I think the council's passionate of, you could lobby the state as well too, to put restrictions back in place for political signs, so.
I'm sure our weather changes stuff like that too. Texas is just littered with campaign signs all over the state. So it's a completely different look than.
And I think one thing that hurts and why we want to be very jealous of the right of way is in some of those states, they're going into the right of way. And that's
True.
California, and they have some cases the right to do that.
Down here, yeah.
We don't hear though, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have.
So you can't put one in somebody's front yard unless that person says, yep, I want that in my front yard. Simple as
That
that.
probably makes a big difference. I hadn't thought of that.
All
Still in
right.
public hearing, right?
Yes.
For somebody else.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak regarding sign codes? If not, can I get a first and second motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Thank you. I need a first and second motion on a first,
Vote on that first.
oh, sorry,
Councilmember Dolly.
Jackie.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
I,
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
All right, I need a first and second motion on first consideration regarding the amendment to chapter 125 with approval of the sign code, deleting chapter 167 with a motion to approve with amendment regarding the timing of messages. Say that right, Doug?
From 30 seconds to 10 seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds to 10 seconds.
Oh, moved as read.
Second.
All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
I,
Richardson.
Aye. Tom, thanks for your input on that.
No problem.
Absolutely.
I'm just glad we're doing it. Thank you, Charlie and Chris.
Moving on to 1206 West Second Avenue. I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding the sale of real estate property located at 1206 West Second Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Beach.
I,
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Wait till we get it back up on the screen here for you and I'll get started. Well, I'll start. As council's aware, we did receive a real estate offer about a month ago for the property at 1206 West Second Avenue. Since this is located in an urban renewal area, essentially as part of the Hillcrest Downtown Unified TIF District, for lack of a better term, I'll just say TIF district on there. There is required that we publish notice of the bid and council's intention to accept the bid and then allow for competing offers to come in for that piece of ground. So when you look at this piece of ground right here, you can see it on the screen. The area that was considered when the offer came in was that approximately 67,000 square foot piece that is just to the northwest of the intersection of Highway 92 and J Street. What was left off was approximately a 30,600 square foot area or 0.7 acres to the north of that parcel that would be retained by the city. We have received two offers for this. Obviously, council is aware of the first offers from the Overland Group. That price is listed up there at the 257,732. That does look like a strange number, but if you recall, there was a broker fee of approximately $15,000. And the original discussion with council was to split that broker fee with that. So if you take half that broker fee, you get down to the original 250 asking price that they were at. They did propose $1,000 in earnest and closing date 180 days after signature on that offer. We did receive the second offer from the Warren County Historical Society. They do own the property just immediately to the west. That offer was for $260,000 with $3,000 in earnest. There was $0 on the broker fee on that one and a closing date of February 1st of 23. So just wanted to give councils a quick update kind of on process from here. I know we've kind of discussed this before on what exactly happens now that we have a second offer. But you really have one of two decisions moving forward. The first decision could be that you would accept either of the offer with an articulated reason on why you're accepting that offer. However, we want to make sure that you are aware if you do go with the Historical Society's offer, there would be a 30-day waiting period, which you would have to allow to get through that process before we could actually sign a real estate contract with that. If you were to accept.
In that 30-day period, somebody else could come in with a bid, is that correct?
No. Yep. I don't know if I'll let you articulate any more on that if you want.
We just have to do a notice of intent.
Okay.
For that 30 days, but it's not the same. We've just done a 30-day notice that we've got an offer. This is just a 30-day notice of intent to accept.
So it's not necessarily a reoccurring cycle that would go on
That's what I
for
was getting at.
eternity and
Thank
get
you.
higher offers on that.
Okay.
But then the second option would be to allow both parties to submit final and best offers. This is what our legal counsel, Allers and Cooney, that has helped us through this process, is recommending to the council. What we would do with this would allow final bids to be due on December 1st at 10 a.m. with council then reviewing those final bids on December 5th. And set an intent to accept a certain offer and set the public hearing. Really with that, we would want to know before we move forward, does the council want any further information with these two offers than they don't have right now? And then lastly, to let you know, if that were to be the case, we would go to then a final public hearing that would be set on January 17th of 2023. But again, I think we would get to that December 5th meeting, which is your next council meeting. Council would declare their intent on which offer they intend to go with. Then there's a 30-day waiting period again on that. That 30-day waiting period really does put us off to that January 17th meeting. Just the way that goes. So again, just really quick in summary, the notice that we published on the first one was the intent to accept the offer from the Overland Group. That allowed now the Historical Society to come in with their second offer. So really, I think council needs to determine, do you want to go with the Overland Group's offer over the Historical Society's offer? And if you do want to go with that one, what is the reason for going with that one over the Historical Society? Then step two, if you would rather go with the Historical Society, what's the reason for that? And we'd have to wait that 30 days, or we could go to a process where we do a final and best offer from both parties, which would be set at your next meeting. So,
And that's what Allers and Cooney recommended.
yes. And, and I think Doug was on the phone call with them this morning too, so he was aware of it. But just from a legality standpoint, we're following state statute here. And just because this is in a TIF area, there's a lot of things with the state statute that we're required to do, but they just felt that this was the cleanest path forward. One of the things to remember is the Overland Group did come in with the initial bid that they put on there. And if you were to then say, we want to go with the historical societies today, well, then they could come back and say, hey, we weren't offered a chance to counter that. They sell our bid, you can see their bid, things like that. So.
What do you say, Doug?
Said,
Agree? Do you agree?
that is the process of these.
Do you agree that that's what we do?
I think it does make the most sense and gives everybody opportunity. A little cumbersome, but we're following along.
Can we share the development that the Overland Group wants to put there?
It's not in the contract, so we're not really 100% sure what that is. And that was another thing that we went through. What they shared with me, I won't share right now just because it was kind of words at the time that they shared with me. But the one thing that our legal counsel kept reminding us was Overland Group maybe has an intention to put a business on that piece of ground. There is nothing right now that locks them into doing that. So really the Overland Group, if you were, let's just say hypothetically say you were to accept their offer tonight, they could turn around in a month and sell the property to somebody else. Well, I guess there'd be a due diligence period, but after they actually got title of the ground, they could turn around and sell it to somebody else. And then what they said they were going to do is not there. Because right now we don't have anything locking them into doing that.
But here's a question that I keep ruminating in my mind, and I'll state two things and I'll restate one thing that I said last meeting was, but if the Overland Group buys it, they would be paying property taxes on that. Is that correct? Whether they develop it or not? Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm assuming Warren County Historical Society will not pay property taxes. Do we know what those would be by any chance? And what we're looking
It's hard to say without knowing the type of business and the size of business that would be going
Let's
in
just say
there.
it's blank ground right now, though. I mean, it's not a whole, probably a very large stack.
Nah, it's not very much.
If you look up the Overton Group on Google, here's what they develop. And again, we don't know, but here's what they develop. Dollar General, Home Depot, Arby's, Chick-fil-A, Sonic, AT&T, Aaron's, Belk Department Stores, and others. Those are their primary. Their primary development is large Dollar Generals. I'm not saying that's what it is because I don't know what it is actually. Home Depot would be nice though, but we also have a letter of support from Joe Reynolds.
Can I back up one thing here, Mayor? If I may? I am a member of Warren County Historical Society, so I just want everybody to know that if we go down that path, I will not be able to.
We received on Friday a letter from Joe Reynolds that the Warren County Fair Association, Warren County Agriculture Association wholeheartedly supports the purchase of the property by the Warren County Historical Society. They are a neighbor to the property. County Fair, they go in, I think you all got that letter. I know we have some people here in the audience as well who want to speak.
We also received two other letters.
Okay, perfect.
Received a letter from Fairway. And dear Mr. Reeves, on behalf of Fairway Stores Incorporated, I'd like to extend this letter of support of the Warren County Historic Society and its goal to retire the property immediately east of the Fairway, located at 1309 at Second Avenue in Manila. Warren County Historical Society has and continues to be a great partner for Fairway. And then we received another letter as well from Deb Larson and Deb Taylor from the Historic Society. I'll pass that down, but they're here tonight to present, so I'll speak to this.
Right. Thanks, Charlie. Anyone wanting to speak on this matter can come forward. I think Deb Taylor would like to speak. Please state your name and address for the record.
Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. I am Deb Taylor. I'm speaking on behalf of the Warren County Historical Society and Museum Complex that's located at 1300 West 2nd, 92. Yes, we did submit an offer. We believe it to be the best or highest dollar value, the cash offer that we have. And we are prepared to close as soon as it works out for everybody. I know you've got like you said, your 30 days and all of that, but we are prepared to close at any time. Not going to need to wait 180 days. And I think, I'm not sure, but as I understand that contract, they also have the option of backing out of that in 180 days too. So that could be a real negative thing for you folks. The Warren County Historical bid, it's going to benefit the residents, the taxpayers of the city. And the biggest thing that we're thinking about is because of its location at J Street and Highway 92 is the traffic flow. And if there's a business located there, obviously there's going to be more traffic. And the city went through, you guys know the history here, went through and they were going to combine K and J Street so they could put stoplights there because the traffic was bad. It is. I can only imagine what would happen if a business was located there. As a historical society, our development plans are much more minimal. We need green space. Okay, we need parking. So that's what our thought process is. I'm not talking big development, big buildings or anything like that. We want to be able to expand as a historical society. We have had to turn away a lot of items that would have been magnificent, additions to our whole serving Warren County's history. But like I said, we need green space. That's what we're looking for, green space, parking area. Another thing that occurs right there at that area, because we are lived with it for so long, is a water pooling. And having that concreted is going to make more of that water go on to Highway 92 for flooding purposes. And I know that this was a dry year, it was wonderful, but those wet years, that water can get almost a foot deep there in that Highway 92 area. Allowing it to stay green space is going to allow for more just natural filtration. I think that's a positive for everybody. Another thing is with the Historical Society acquiring additional property, it is going to expand our tourism, and that obviously helps the whole community. We would be allowing buses and tourists, that type of thing, to come, and that would be awesome, not just for us, but for the whole community. We feel that's good. Plus the educational opportunities that we could enhance both the children, which I hope all of you realize that we do the 5th graders every year as tours and that type of thing. Giving them an experience that they would otherwise have to go clear to Des Moines or somewhere else for. So we have a real community service in that respect. And the educational opportunities would only increase by allowing us that. What do we get out of it? That's important to us because right now we don't have 911 access. And that's a pretty scary thing because we do deal with a lot of elderly, disabled, that type of thing, and we need 911 access. We need parking. We don't have enough adequate parking. And it would allow us property maintenance and that type of thing too, to have that piece of property that we are discussing. Like I said, our potential to exhibit is going to expand. We've had to turn away some awesome donations. I'm thinking of a gas station that we had to turn away. Let's see, oh, well, there's been several things, a welding shop, that type of thing that we have to turn away. But we are at capacity and then some. So anyway, the chance to grow would be awesome. And I think the county as a whole is impacted. And as you said, you've got letters of recommendation from the Fair Board. We work very closely with each other and hopefully present for the county and the city as a whole a very wholesome experience. And we want to continue to do that. We feel the community is also supporting us, just the people that came out tonight and were interested in what was going on and wanting to support us in that respect too. You also can tell just by a nonprofit organization being able to raise that much money that quick, since Ben came and said, guess what, there's this offer. We have a lot of support in the community, and it can stay that way. Another thing, and I don't know if you realize, of course, we do Log Cabin Festival every year. This year, we had over 30 businesses, local Indianola businesses supporting us in that. So it is a very big community thing, and I'm hoping that you all realize that we do have a lot of support and backing throughout the whole community. Well, I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and we're really hoping to forward the purchase of the property. That gives you something to think on anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. Visitors to our chambers, so.
What?
Deb, we might need to invite you back more.
Stanfield 407 West Ashland. And I just want to follow up, when I read the agenda item, it only listed the other property, the potential purchaser. So I was addressing strictly my thoughts on that. But before that, I would like to kind of piggyback on the discussion of tourism in the study session. I know that there is a person, I have talked to her 2 or 3 years in a row, that comes for a weekend of opera and historical society. And then I also this year had a balloonist's wife spend a good chunk of every day in our genealogy library. So we are attracting, we have this whatever. Anyway, but I would like to go back to starting what I'm looking at. I was a new member of and I wrote it out because I think better with paper. I was a new board member of the Warren County Historical Society 10 years ago when the proposed J and K Street connector was first presented to us. As I recall, one of the perceived issues was the loss of our Highway 92 driveway. We considered a J Street driveway a plus, not a minus. Fast forward 10 years, that driveway is still a thorn in our side. It's one of 3 driveways intermingled with the J and K Street intersections, creating a commercial drive on that curve, along with the increased traffic on K Street from the development down there, would add immeasurably to the traffic congestion that sometimes it takes 10 minutes to get out of our driveway or the fair driveway across from Fairway, because that's also a not even space. In addition, our driveway is the drainage conduit for a good deal of the fairgrounds. A commercial building and a parking lot on the existing green space next door would exacerbate the problem. Being landlocked, we would have no choice but to try to maintain that driveway and our outgrown facilities as best we can. And I would also like to note that the city itself helps us outgrow the facilities. The library, when they didn't want to have any genealogy information anymore, passed it to us. When they didn't want George Ladke, some of you know who George Ladke was, who had a local TV program. And all of his tapes came from the public library to our library. And so we, and the public keeps bringing stuff in on a practically a daily basis, and we have no place to put anything. But anyway, I conclude by, I would respectfully request that you not sell the adjoining property to the Overland Group. Thank you.
Thank you.
Benjamin Clark, 2891 Main Street, Churchville, Iowa. On behalf of the Warren County Historical Society and with the Iowa Firm Foundation, a nonprofit, through the years, my family have seen many growth at the Warren County Historical Society with the youth. They have appreciate what the museum has to offer, such as the Pioneer Days. For the children that have had good penmanship, spelling bees, we also have had Salisbury hunts, go look for something, and corn husker making dolls, sewing quilt blocks, playing tug of war, corn shelling. They really enjoyed that. The children wanted to have more than one time there. Two-man saw, and the museum also has a model train, how Indianola used to be in the basement. And various antique tools, education families. We also teach the Wilson, I would like for the see this, the Wilson way of learning. Because in Iowa, we have a big literacy problem. And also the Laubach way of learning. And also in the basement there, years ago, there used to be a man named Toby, and he used to go around and set up tents. And before we had the television, they would entertain us just like the circus. The circus has also been here in Indianola. So the children are missing out a lot of things. We're not having the circus because they don't know what the animals are, if you're a city. When we had the log cabin days, we had the Pioneer Day, we had the Pioneer couple, and the Pioneer couple was Henry and Catherine and Henry Clark, my grandparents. And also we had the King and Queen. And I know they have changed that because some people complain, I guess. But I still like the Pioneer couple to show where our roots are. And then we had demonstrations. We had apple cider making from the across from Lake Aquabi, the wildlife area. And we had a homemade ice cream. And we also had a big, huge parade. I know in the past, we used to have more than an hour. I know that Al Alzer used to help with that. I used to help with the parade too, with numbers and things. There has been auctions to raise money, the pies and the cakes and other donation things. And then also we have a breakfast, biscuits and gravy and lunch and dinner, supper. We also in the past, we used to have the kitchen van, senior citizens. That was good entertainment. We had the platform we had there, and we had poetry, talent shows, art shows, quilt shows. There has been other people making things out of wood. In the basement, there is a demonstration of wood carvings down there. Even my grandpa, Fred Clark, he made farm machinery. He was born in 1906, and he also made walnut and cherry clocks, grandfather clocks plus other clocks. We also celebrate the Martin Luther King. We used to have a supper for that. The George Washington Carver Museum, a book about that. And we had some plates through the years, different churches that we highlighted through the years, the historical books that we have made. We used to have family, the roots of our family of the different towns, over more than 100 towns that were here in Warren County. Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, suppers too. The museum is also available for the community as a rental space for events and trade shows. Museum members do like traveling throughout the state and learning about other places. And travel and tourism, I have, and some of the other board, went to the board of supervisors and we asked for some money, and we made a calendar events for 2 years. Warren County used to be the apple of the county. We used to have more apple orchards than any other county. So right here in this building, I made a little badge that talked about that at one time. But now we don't even have our orchards, which is sad. The museums, members do like learning from one another. We have meetings like once a month and demonstrations, and different people come and speak about interesting things. We're open to the public. A lot of good education is there. And just like to see more education for our school, because not having the basics, it seems like we need to get back to the basics. Because here recently, I don't know if you heard on the radio or not, that the Iowa basic test was fell across the whole state, and college test was fell. So we used to be #1 in education. We used to have the teachers college. I don't even hear about the teachers college over you and I. And we need to learn from our past. And we need to teach work ethics to this younger generation, because a lot of the baby boomers are retiring now, and some reason we're not doing a good job of passing the torch down to the next generation. We can plan to continue, create more news displays, more opportunities, more education, more public and family events, activities. We can demonstrate more things too. Hands-on, teach them hands-on is what we really need. And I really think that we need a trade school, just like 1966, DMAC started as a trade school in Ankeny, Iowa. But I think that we need more, because if something happened to America, I don't think that we have enough metal or steel. I don't think that if we went to war, I'm not for war, but I don't think we survive. And then also at one time, we used to be the heartland of America. And then we also be the food basket of the world too. And Iowa don't seem to be the food basket anymore, because the orchards are gone and the 7 grains are gone, oats, wheat, barley. Not just always corn and soybeans, but other things that we grew here. So I think we're gonna have a shortage of food. You should see the faces of these young children, and the miles upon miles of smiles for us to continue these things. We would really appreciate having this land.
Or anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm gonna say.
I wasn't going to speak. My name's Elodie Opstead, 510 West Ashland, Indianola. Couple of things. You're right, Steve, property taxes. Doesn't have it, but you can't measure that. You can't measure the additional business from all the things they've said. The other thing that kind of bothers me from your attorney is his recommendation seems rather short-sighted. It doesn't go down to an additional layer that I think is kind of important, and that is, and could urge you to make a decision tonight. And that is, is these, giving this land or allowing the Warren County Historical Society to purchase it directly supports Warren County. Okay, got the fair and you got the Historical Society, which have nowhere else to go. It's the only land there is. So that's a reason, number one. The other reason is Overland. You have no idea what they're going to do. And you recognize that. So I don't understand why you can't just make a decision tonight. In a word, Warren County. Thanks.
Council, have a decision to make here. So Doug, what's the best way to, if
Close public hearing.
close the public hearing and then decide what we want to do? All right, so I need a first and second motion to close the public hearing. Jackie?
Councilmember Shelby,
Aye.
Schroeder. Aye. Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
We had a lot of good comments tonight. And I guess that leads us to the next point, what we would like to do here. We can accept an offer, correct? Or we can send it back or
You can accept Oberlin's offer. That would end it. You could request additional proposals, give them a last chance, kind of a final best offers. Or you could, what you would do is you would actually do an intent, motion for intent to accept the Warren County Historical Society offer subject to that 30-day notice.
Well, I would like to accept the Historical Society offer, but I also want to, I mean, I feel I need to go with legal advice. So, I mean, I think it's more what you advised, Doug, than
I would kind of disagree. Where's somebody from Overland Group tonight? You're aware of the meeting, correct?
Charlie, they're aware of the meeting.
you're saying.
They could have been on the phone.
Why aren't they here? Why aren't they speaking up? Why aren't they, we've got a great group of people here fighting for betterment of our community. To me, I mean, that's the.
And Councilmember Beach, the reason for the recommendation has been because the statute talks about a competitive bidding process. However, the competitive bidding process is as you see it. So thought was, if you give final proposals, then you've gone in more of a bidding up, a competitive bidding procedure. But you don't have, again, you don't have to.
there's
You-
no liability.
There's no, basically the statute's set up so that the whole point was you have an urban renewal area, a TIF area, that when you get that offer that you don't get sweetheart deals. And so that's why the notice and the 30 days for other competitive bids. So you satisfied that. It is kind of one of those areas that you dictate the rules and it depends on how far you want to go. That was bond council's recommendation.
Back to the slide where it talks about their broker fee. 'Cause I assume that is that broker fee what we're paying? So we are losing
50%, 50%.
so, okay, so half of that. So I mean,
Their offer is.
That brought it down to 250.
yeah, their offer is not the most
Is
competitive.
lower.
I think the most competitive is our local historical society. We've got buy-in from their neighbors, Fairway and the fair. And I think
Well, we talked about
There's
no
some really
property
valid
tax,
points.
but there's a huge economic impact, so.
Well, and I want to address that too. And Elodie, I appreciate your comment. As I've told a couple of board members and people I've talked to on the phone, think what we have to look out for too is also all of the taxpayers in Indianola as well as the organizations that we have here. And my comment was only to make sure that council and everyone else knew that there is a property tax issue here. I'm not against. I can't vote anyway if we go to the Warren County Historical Society, but I'm not against that. And I just want to make sure that it's out there on the table. The other thing that I do think is worth some discussion, and I don't, maybe not tonight, or maybe it is, but I know that from conversations with board members of the Warren County Fair, and Joe's here tonight. But you know, I don't know if you folks are talking about it, some kind of an easement agreement to allow them out on a J Street that would give another opportunity to get off of some of the issues that the fair has with turning radiuses and things into the county fair during county fair time. That would be something that I think would be very, very beneficial. And I think it would be something that I don't know where the fair board is on that, but I've heard from some fair board members that that would be something that would be something beneficial for that they think for the fair anyway. And I don't know if she's heard that or not. I'm sure she has, but again, if we go with the county fair or Warren County Historical Society as a member, I can't vote, but obviously
I
it's.
feel like with the Overland Group, there's opportunities in the city that we can help them identify other land and other property that is just appropriate where Warren County Historical Society, unfortunately, we can't find you other land. This is the land that neighbors you. So I think it would be an injustice. I don't have a vote though, so I think it would be an injustice, but I think that we can help the Overland Group, and I'm sure Charlie would be able to identify a number of properties. You know, Christina, you met with a property owner today that I think about would be perfect. And still pretty close.
I'm sure they're probably pretty glad we didn't go through that JK alignment because that would put that curb right at their basically foundation of the Warren County Historical Society. So
But we were looking forward to having the land behind it.
I understand that. I know. I just,
You know, it's
the design and the alignment of that would have been horrible. So,
Yeah.
Was the people society aware of what the Overland Group's bid was? Yeah. You know, I love our community. You know, we were elected by the community members here, and I love history and having to turn away history because we don't have room. It saddens me a little bit. I would be in favor of voting, you know, to keep it within our own community.
Him too.
Can we potentially, can I make a motion right now that we move forward with the 30-day?
They suggest that in order to make this very clear and above board of why you need to articulate the reasons. And some of the reasons that were shared both by the council and the community were, and if you would want, might I go so far as to say, it would be appropriate to make a motion to approve the intent to sell the property to Warren County Historical Society for the reasons listed, which would include the highest financial offer on the apples to apples comparison of the two bids. It is the preservation of history in Warren County. That it would benefit and clearly illustrates a benefit to tourism and economic development. That it supports Warren County as a whole. That it supports the local. I have my glasses on my own writing. It has the support of the local neighbors. That it preserves flood. It deals with the flood issues in the green space, as well as the traffic in that area. Provides additional parking to the overall Warren County property, as well as to the fairgrounds. That they have the ability to close in a timely fashion with a cash offer. It's not contingent upon them doing their due diligence, the other offer where they would walk away. That it would be a guarantee to close and that it would bring an overall benefit to the community and the region. And if a council member happened to want to say so move, that
So move.
would be.
So perfect, because
I'll say one thing. I would support it, but I can't. So.
Well, I would too, but I can't vote
And I
either,
would just
so.
ask, just clarify, there's no legal liability by doing it this way, because we're going against the advice of counsel here.
Well, never say never in my world, but you follow the statute.
We gave our reasons. We listed our reasons why. They're all valid economic reasons.
I haven't always listened to my lawyer and it usually gets me in trouble, so.
In fairness though, are not giving, by this overt act, you are not giving the Oberlin group the opportunity to see their offer and have a counter offer. So you are knowingly going forward for the stated reasons of that.
And. Ron,
Be nitpicky, but the flooding thing is an issue because there's no way we would allow it to go through planning and zoning. I'm sure Charlie would never allow that to be dumped out on the highway, so.
Nor would
maybe
the
strike that
DOT.
one, but otherwise, everything else, I don't want to be a, but I also don't want to open us up to, oh, you were gonna allow something.
Flooding, but green space.
There you go. I'm okay with that.
Also, just to clarify the motion, whoever ran it, this is not.
Motion of intent.
It's a motion of intent, right? So
For the 30-day notice to be given. Yes.
authority to execute a contract.
Starts that 30-day process.
all right, we will go ahead and vote on that super long motion. Jackie,
Councilmember Richardson,
Abstain.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker,
Aye.
Colby,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
well, congratulations, Warren County Historic.
Day intent then is in 30 days. We can then vote on actually the sale of the process. Is that correct? And there's no counter offer allowed then in the 30-day.
No other offers.
That's correct. I think it's just to give people out to do something a bit.
Okay.
We are excited about your continued investment in our community, so thank you. And we're excited to have you expand. So, that's great. Thank you. All right. Here's the. Get stuff done. Moving on to the industrial park, I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a preliminary plat for Indianola Industrial Park 3.
So moved.
Thank you. And Charlie.
Unless everybody can hear me or I don't know.
We can hear you. Heather, can you hear?
Tired.
Yeah, I know.
I can hear Charlie off and on a little bit
Okay, great.
Choppy.
Really quick, the council's aware, we've been working on the development of an industrial park expansion, what we have titled an Indianola Industrial Park 3. Subdivision application in front of you is kind of the, kind of one of the key pieces to this, getting platted and starting the construction document process. Currently, the land is shown in 4 parcels. The subdivision will take those 4 parcels, which show just under 60 acres. Redivide it into 3. I guess you're not really dividing it, but you're replatting the lots into 3 lots. There would be 2 approximate 10-acre lots, 10 to 12-acre lots, and then 1 larger lot that would be 30 acres in size. That 30-acre lot, if the property owner so shows in the future, could be further divided for smaller lots, but we did want to leave it as 1 kind of 30-acre parcel for now, just in case we did have a business looking for a big chunk of land that we want to locate there. Really quick, it does add a road that comes off of Hillcrest, approximately lines was 143rd Avenue. That would be 17th Street, 17th Street would eventually connect all the way down to Iowa Avenue. If you're over the Missouri Valley, they currently have 17th Street stubbed in about 275 feet there. So there would still be a gap in that roadway that would be developed in the future, but this one would stretch to the south. And then there would be a cul-de-sac that would come off of 17th Street called Orchard Place that would then provide access into these 3 lots. The comprehensive plan does call for this land to be future industrial ground, so it does meet the intent of that. And if there are any other questions.
Responsible for the putting in of those streets.
Let me explain that in the next one. That's really brilliant to the next.
What gap are you talking?
Between that road, gosh, I'd have to look at it, but
Come from Iowa.
1 second here, I can get there.
This. Oh. Keep 17th going on, I mean,
Well, I mean, right now 17th runs right behind Vander Linden's storage, like, but it's gravel back there.
That's 15.
that's
Is that
15th.
15th?
Yeah, no, 17th is
Yeah.
out.
One more.
East side of,
It'd be about 15.
that's pretty, okay.
Would it be on the east or the west side of Missouri?
On the east side.
East
On the
side?
east side,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. More than I anticipated.
Yeah, it runs up.
Yeah, it's
Kind
gonna
of
be,
the op-
It'll come off what's already paved, correct then?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Charlie, one question, the utilities then, will be on the south side of Hillcrest, is that correct? And right away there, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions for Charlie? All right, Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Peach.
Aye.
Great, I need a first and second motion to open the public hearing regarding the proposal to enter into an infrastructure agreement with Indianola Industrial Park LLC.
Second.
Jackie?
Councilmember Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Peach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
This is just a continuation, I think, of the last item, also where we did go through bond proceedings, to, get $2 million, for this project. This development, the infrastructure agreement that we were getting in with property owners, and we read about how the infrastructure of this development is going to get installed. There's a few things to note, I think, on here. First of all, that the developers have agreed to transfer all the proposed right of way that is shown on the screen here, to the city, by November 30th at no cost. I will note we're getting a little bit close to that deadline, but I think we're gonna have full fee agreement on that. That will just get that done, got all the documentation in place, go through that process. So it'll be a few days delay to that, but we'll be pretty close. Then the developer would agree to dedicate a temporary construction easement over the entire property to the city. This will be used by the city when we install underground public infrastructure. The city would then agree to do all the site preparation work and grading, all sanitary sewer work, all water main work, and all storm sewer work. The city would agree that this work will be done on or before July 31st of 2023. At that point, then the developer agrees to do all pavement construction, site restoration work, and final grading, which would include all streetlight installation and all street signage installation. The developer agrees that this work will be done 60 days after the city completes this work. Excuse me. The developer agrees to provide a 4-year maintenance bond for the pavement construction improvements. Going back to the other one with the underground utility, obviously, as part of our contract, with a contractor, we also get 4-year maintenance. That. The total estimated cost of the infrastructure today is just a little over $1.5 million. Agency added in, as well as engineering, construction, administration. That total estimate does go to about 2.1 million. And I think the council's aware of this, but Warren County has agreed to provide just over $370,000 of American Rescue Plan funds for this project. So if there are any questions on the infrastructure agreement,
That'd be ready September 30th, 2023, correct?
that's
That's the goal, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a certified site.
Yeah, so the next step would be to possibly go through the certified site process. So that was something that we worked on with Iowa Economic Development last year to get that process started. We had everything in place. The only issue we ran into was the American Gas getting to the site. There needs to be a large transmission upgrade on their gas line to the south of town before it can meet the certified site requirements. So Mid-American is going through the Iowa Utility Board to get all of the permitting process for that. They told us about 6 months ago that could take anywhere from a year to 18 months to get in place. So it really depends on when that gets in place, when they get that upgraded, to when we get our certified process. Fingers crossed, I think our hope would also be that maybe we have this round under contract before that process starts. Property owners expressed a few times to me that we have a lot of interest.
Early, assuming that we'll let bids in sometime soon.
Yeah, really quick, and let me go through that process. I wanted to, because we have been working with our engineer to kind of put that process in place. So we do plan to advertise, to post post our plans on, there's a few internet sites that we typically post those, but we would plan to post those next Monday, November 28th. The city council would set the public hearing, to accept bids, accept construction documents, plans, cost estimate, all of that on the 19th. We would then have bid openings internally here with staff on December 20th, and then council would have their public hearing and set bids possibly on January 3rd.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, we're
Cool.
Planning on moving pretty quickly with that. We're trying to get into that prime bidding window right now.
Absolutely. Good.
Charlie? If not, I need first and second motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Actually, first off, I should have asked, can anyone here want to speak on that? If so, we can pull those motions. I missed that part, sorry. All right, so we've got member Parker and Gwen. Motion for it. So I need a first and second motion on a resolution. Oh, Jackie.
Councilmember Dolly.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Thank you. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of the infrastructure amendment agreement by and between the city of Indianola and Indianola Industrial Park LLC.
So moved as read.
Thank you. Execution, I can say the word, I swear. Jackie.
Councilmember Dolly.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
All right, we are moving on to new business. I need a first and second motion for resolution approving a preliminary plat for Heritage Hills 12.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Jackie? Oh, we don't need Jackie yet. Discussion,
I don't need
Charlie.
to say anything.
Do you guys have any questions on this preliminary plat?
Really quick, and I'll just go through this. This is a 13 lot subdivision. 12 of the 13 lots will be used for 2-unit townhomes. And then the one lot, if you can see it kind of there on that, the road swings around to the north. It would be on the left-hand side. That top lot will be a single family lot. It does propose 2 outlets, one being outlot Y. You can see where that detention basin would be located. That detention basin will be used to let the stormwater that will be running off this site, detain it and then release it. And then outlot Z to the west of that one would be retained for development.
How would you reach that future development?
From the property owner to the north there,
Is that a stub street there? Is that what that is?
to the north.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can, where the units are, you go up there, that would be stubbed into that property line, and then the developer is going to be getting a temporary easement for that kind of hammerhead T that's in there. That'll be used for fire department, anything they need to get in there and turn vehicles around.
But that would be the area then that we would use for the street, or where? I'm confused. I'm sorry.
Getting into outlot Z.
Yes.
No, so that would be used then, so the property owner who owns outlot Z also owns the property to the north of there.
Okay.
So
I
once
get you.
that all develops in there, that development would.
Gotcha. All right. That's where I was confused.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, so, yeah, we have not landlocked.
Okay. That's kind of my question.
Any other questions?
Did I see, can you just review what the size of the lots are? I think I noticed, but
Good question.
the size of the lots, the frontage.
Good question.
Let me get in that really quick. Seconds.
Were they like 90? Okay, I've got it.
Yeah,
So
for
that's-
the most part, looking at them, they're all right now, it varies, but between roughly about 0.3 to 0.4 acres.
Is that
But again,
comparable?
You're gonna have those 2 units on each of those lots. then
And that's
we'll
what we
further
have.
add those
That's what you're
afterwards.
Prior to that, are they any bigger or smaller than the other lots that we've already
No,
done?
they're about the same size, yeah. And well, the previous development, if you remember, those were somewhat long and narrow lots just because it was kind of filling in on the hillside there, so that's the only difference. But I mean, I think the look and feel from it as you're driving down the street, pretty much just gonna be a continuation of what's there right now.
Okay.
Questions, Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Hewlin. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolly.
Aye.
You know, and we have the city manager's report from
Be
Betty.
really quick with one. Well, maybe two.
Are you hot too? Cause we're all.
Oh, I'm so hot.
So hot.
As the council knows, I've been working with Rick Graves and HR Green. And we've engaged Andy in this, but we're working on remediation of the old sewer treatment plant. And in that process, we had the sewer contractor that came and cleaned out the tanks earlier in the year. We're going to be operating under that same bid to clean all the tanks and everything. It's going to be approximately $250,000. We're going to be doing that really close on razor's edge of the remainder of the budget that we have there, but we're trying to incorporate it all into one project. You just want you to know that we're just operating under that same parameters and things are moving forward there. I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
They land apply that then down at the farm site? Is that what they're gonna do?
I don't know exactly what I know they take it off site, but I'm not sure.
Land of flat.
It's good enough.
All right, I need a first and second motion to enter into closed sessions in accordance with Iowa Code, section 21.51C, to discuss strategy with legal counsel and matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and where its disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the government. Thank you. Jackie?
Councilmember Richardson.
Aye.
Hewland. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Dolby.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Deeds.
Aye. Okay, we'll take a few minutes break, go to the bathroom, and then I think John has that same idea as me. I was like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, but can I hold it so we can get through this? I need a nap. I need.
I think you got ate enough today. What, tired?